Well, good morning. Good to see you again. Day 4 of this Russell Quirk, Mike Graham Show interruption project. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Judging by the numbers, you are. And thank you very much indeed for your support and for not turning off just because it's not Mike Graham. Don't worry, he will be back from his shark wrestling expedition on Monday, which I'm sure you're looking forward to. I am too. And also don't forget is the launch of the UK Live channel on Monday. If you haven't subscribed to UK Live as a YouTube channel yet, then please do. If you have already subscribed prior to yesterday, actually, then please resubscribe because Pooch has had to do some magic resetting of that particular channel. Going well, I thought, until I received my mailbag this morning. And I have been asked to read the following pre-prepared statement. Do I have to do this?
You do, yes, you do.
Okay. At around 8:30 a.m. yesterday, I did something bad, something stupid that I am thoroughly and utterly ashamed of. It's not something I'm proud of, and I do want to extend my sincere, humble apology to you all. Sometimes we do things that are ill thought and that cause upset to others. People are not so much angry, but they are apparently disappointed. And so it is with this humble address that I promise never ever to inflict a lefty guest on you again. It was reckless, it was dumb, apparently, it was irresponsible. Matthew Hulbert is now in hiding, but it's not his fault. So please, I appeal to you to stand down your pitchforks and your Rottweilers. It will not happen again. I am genuinely so sorry, apparently. Can you please now stop sending pictures of Jeremy Corbyn to my family at home? Thank you very much indeed. I think actually we have a picture of Matthew Hulbert that was sent in to us with him in hiding, which we'll come to later on. There it is. That's Matthew Hulbert there, in hiding in a safe house somewhere in northern England. Let's hope that he is allowed out and can show his face in public again, if not, indeed, on this channel ever again, it seems. Okay, there's my fake apology. Be open-minded, ladies and gentlemen, for goodness sake. I genuinely did get messages yesterday about having someone from the left on this show. And look, it was a bit of an experiment, completely my fault, nothing to do with Pooch. I just thought, hey, look, maybe we'll have a bit of a row and it might entertain you. But some of you, not all of you, thought it was a step too far. Okay, fair enough. Albeit that actually the day before, of course, I ended up having an argument, that desired argument with a member of the centre-right of politics, Peter Barnes, which has created lots and lots of narrative and lots of comment on the internet, both on Twitter, Facebook, and indeed in the YouTube comments of this show. And keep those coming. We had over 7,000 YouTube comments yesterday. Most of them really, really good. So thank you very much indeed. Right, let's crack on with the show. Loads and loads of guests. We've got Kelvin McKenzie coming up at 7:30. We've got Chris Rose coming in. We've got Lee Harris, Jamie Jenkins, Mike Fairclough, Sasha Lord, Joan Kennedy, and Andrew Eborn, the futurist. I'll come back to that later on in terms of what that is and how he justifies calling himself a futurist. But he's basically a barrister and a technologist. Let's see how that kind of works. But first, I'm delighted to welcome Benjamin Elps. Ben, welcome to the studio.
Morning, Russell. Great to be here.
For the Taxpayers Alliance. You must be busy at the moment, looking at all this stuff that's going on in terms of money being funneled left, right and centre, and the taxpayer being rather on the hook for lots and lots and lots of things. So a busy time?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, since Labour came to office, we've just seen a huge amount of tax rises, vast amount of spending, lots of it getting wasted. So there's plenty of work for us.
Yeah, good. Okay. Right, let's talk about the papers. I want to go to the Times first of all, which is this story here, which is the revelation, although maybe you're not surprised really, that in the wake of what's happened in Belfast, which obviously we covered extensively yesterday, a part of that story is the fact that the person that attempted to cut off the head of Stephen Ogilvy, the person that's now been charged with attempted murder, he found his way to Britain through what is being called the back door from the EU. So jumped on a plane to Dublin and then onto a bus to get into Northern Ireland. And apparently, it turns out that's a thing. And there are now, maybe not all entirely using that same route, but according to the Times, 2,370 asylum seekers in what the Times are calling supported accommodation in Northern Ireland. Well, I would call that free taxpayer-funded accommodation because it's not just support, it is free, it is financially subsidised to the greatest extent by the taxpayer. But here's the thing, right? This is the crux of the headline in the Times, that one migrant, just one, has been sent back to Ireland after crossing the Irish border into Northern Ireland out of that 2,370. So all of this nonsense, all of this rubbish, this gaslighting rhetoric from government about how they're returning people, bearing in mind Northern Ireland is part of Britain, it's where Northern Ireland is concerned, via that backdoor route into the UK, one return to Ireland out of 2,370, many of whom would have used that route, whether it be by kind of hitchhiking, bus or whatever. Obviously there's a tax implication here in terms of the funding aspect, Ben, but this is absolutely outrageous. Again, that nothing whatsoever is being done to plug these holes that allow people like Hadi Aladid, I hate mentioning his name actually, but the criminal, as he will be proven to be, although only charged, not convicted yet, I'll just give you that caveat, but come on, we all know he did it, we saw the bloody video. What do you think of this from a migration perspective, Ben?
I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary that we've allowed this to continue. And the rate of return is pitifully low. The fact that it's 1 out of 2,300, you say. And all these people that are here are just a cost to taxpayers. So as you say, it's not a subsidy. They are just receiving free housing and accommodation and all the rest of it. And the burden on taxpayers is just ridiculous.
Can we put a number on that?
I actually don't know the number per migrant, but
I read some time ago that a right-wing think tank, okay, you can say we like, yeah, well, they're biased, they would say that, but when you look at the cost of the accommodation, the 46 quid a week, the trampoline lessons from local authorities, driving lessons, swimming lessons always makes me laugh when people come over here on a boat. Why do they need swimming lessons after they've arrived here on a boat to Dover from Calais? Seems to be rather the other way around. I'm surprised the French government actually are not giving them swimming lessons to give them the courage to cross from France to Britain. But the figure that was put on the average value, if you like, the cost of a migrant in Britain, wait for it, over their lifetime, assuming they stay here, which they do, because they never get removed, as we've just highlighted, £400,000. 400 grand per migrant is what it costs you, the taxpayer, for every migrant that comes here, every asylum seeker. So every person that comes here and says that they want to seek asylum because they've been, chased out of Somalia or Sudan by someone with a machete, which they've then duly picked up and used on the streets of Britain, seemingly. 400 grand, Ben.
That's extraordinary. And to put that into a bit of context, the typical household in the UK will pay around £1.2 million in tax over their lifetime. So each household is supporting sort of three migrants.
And do you think people sitting here watching this would be pleased about that all of the money from their hard-earned toil, the stamp duty, the VAT, the tax on fuel, the income tax, inheritance tax, corporation tax, I mean, we are taxed to death now. We have the highest tax burden, I think, ever.
Yeah, it's at a record high now.
So how will people watching this feel about a significant minority of people in Britain that just exist in terms of their tax pounds to pay for this unfettered, open door, in many cases, threat to the people of Britain?
I imagine there'll be great frustration in the same way that everyone else feels. If you're getting up each day, going to work, paying your taxes, obeying the law, and only to see essentially all of that money just going to support people who perhaps don't even have the right to be here in the first place, the anger is very understandable.
Which takes us, I guess, very poignantly to Belfast and what we are seeing yet again. We saw on the streets of Belfast again last night. We saw unrest. We saw police vehicles being stoned. We saw water cannons being deployed. I mean, crikey, I'm old enough to remember water cannons being used on the streets of Belfast back in the 70s. I don't think they have been at any great volume in our country for many years since. I stand to be corrected, but I can't remember even during St George's Day marches, where patriots take to the streets of London and decide to have a beer and celebrate this great country, the police didn't even use water cannon on them. They just kettled them and used riot shields against them, of course. But they stopped short at water cannons until last night, when the unrest on the streets of Belfast started again. So to your point, Ben, we're in a situation, of course, where I guess we're getting to a point as a nation, and certainly in Belfast, where the question of immigration and those that are invading Britain, many of whom would do us harm, we're getting to a point then, aren't we, that the Belfast situation is the catalyst, which may be the point at which we look back in history on and say, that was the point that Britain and the British people decided enough is enough.
Quite possibly. It's always, you never want to sort of see attacks on the police, homes being burnt, that sort of thing.
No one condones it.
No.
But I think we have to be realistic. We'll get onto the blame game in a minute, because I want to talk to you and then Kelvin Mackenzie about this. I'm sure he'll be very animated about it. There of course, no one's condoning, encouraging or inciting anybody to go out on the street and cause damage or injury. The scenes of people trying to rip migrants out of HMOs, homes in multiple occupation, the night before last, was horrendous, disgusting. The arson, the damage, the unrest. It's a horrendous thing that I condemn. Right? I was asked on social media, by the way, yesterday by several people trying to catch me out. Well, do you condemn violence? Of course I condemn violence, you idiots. Of course I do. But the point is, if you've got half an iota of intelligence, is that you have to have empathy for the people in Belfast and in Southport and in Southampton and in London and everywhere else, where they are sick to the back teeth of this situation that has been engineered by successive governments, the Conservatives and now Labour, where we are allowing people in that we don't know, that have criminal histories, criminal intent, sometimes terrorist history, terrorist intent. And we see literally week after week after week, these situations, whether it be Rhiannon White, whether it be Stephen Ogilvie, whether it be the Axel Rudbecana monster. I mean, how many of these do we need? And I keep asking that question. Of course, the answer is none. But despite the fact that these instances keep happening time and time and time again, perpetrated by people that are not from these shores, that are coming here to cause trouble and cause harm and injury, it isn't surprising, again, I'm not advocating it, but it isn't surprising that the good people of Britain are standing up straight and saying, I've had it.
Yeah, well, this is it. You can only push people so far. And as you say, we've had consecutive governments completely fail to get a grip on this issue. And they just show how out of touch they really are from the lives of the people they try to govern. It's just a completely unacceptable situation to have people like this roaming our streets. The crime levels are extraordinary. Even here in London, at a very sort of basic level, things like walking around with your phone out. That's a big no, because it will just be snatched. So we've got a real problem with in this country.
You'll notice, Ben, I'm not wearing a watch. I like a watch. I think watches are cool. The right one. I don't mean swatches. I mean like proper watches. I do not wear a watch in London. I mean, I'm a 58-year-old guy. I'm not, shy in coming forward. I'm not saying I'm intimidating or anything, but I wouldn't say I'm an easy mugging target. But I can't wear a watch in London that has a value, because I know eventually the law of averages says that some idiot, some savage, some barbarian, whoever, some criminal is going to try and rip it off my wrist. And I know several people that have had that happen in London in 2026, and the politicians are turning a blind eye to it. Let's talk about this blame game thing, Ben, which I am totally and utterly incensed by. I was watching, as an example, I don't know if we've got the clip. I'm not sure our system will allow us to clip lefty media, that's the trouble. I had the misfortune to sit there with Mrs. Q last night, catching the Cathy Newman show on Sky, which is something you definitely should not watch, not even for comedy, because Cathy Newman spent the entirety of her show having been exported from Channel 4, which is one of the most left-wing stations you will ever come across, kind of outside of Russia or Venezuela, frankly. And Cathy Newman and her various guests, including Caroline Lucas, the Greenster, They spent the entirety of Cathy Newman's programme not talking about unfettered immigration, not talking about the perils of people that would come here and do not want to fit into our society or our culture or abide by our rules or our laws. They didn't want to talk about the assailant, this Hadi Alodid. They didn't want to talk about Rhiannon White. They didn't want to talk about Axel Rudabikana. Didn't want to talk about Southport, London Bridge, the Manchester Arena bomber. None of that. Didn't want to talk about any of that. The people that actually do this stuff and hurt us and keep intending to do so, seemingly, what they wanted to talk about was Nigel Farage and Elon Musk. I kid you not. Well, look, we've got a poll. Let's just show the poll that we have decided to put up this morning in terms of whose fault the Belfast unrest is. So let's see what you think. So is it the fault of Elon Musk, as has been suggested? I'll come back to that in a second. Or Nigel Farage, or a Sudanese beheader, or the far right? Now, wise as you always are, audience, 746 of you have voted, and the vast majority of you, funnily enough, say that the fault of the Belfast unrest, as indeed was the case in Southampton and Southport, it's the fault of the person that came here, picked up a knife, grabbed hold of Stephen Ogilvie, wrestled him to the floor and tried to cut his head off and gouge his eyes out. It is not Nigel Farage's fault, clearly, Ben, is it, for simply saying that this is intolerable, for simply saying, as he did with the Henry Novak situation, that we as a nation should feel cold, pure rage. And it certainly isn't, as has been suggested by Ed Davey, Caroline Lucas and Cathy Newman, these numpties, these lefty idiots, these absolute ignoramuses of politics, that they try to lay the blame for the Belfast unrest and change the whole narrative. They swing the whole conversation towards the fact, guess what? It's Elon Musk's fault, apparently. Elon Musk, the billionaire, I've never seen him behead anybody, have you?
I can't say I have.
No?
It's the sort of thing that would go viral on it.
Yes, if anyone has any footage, any evidence of Elon Musk or indeed Nigel Farage stabbing anybody or beheading anybody, could you please send it in to us? Because I'd love to see it. Because those two individuals that are stand-up people of common sense who are calling out the fact that Britain is going to hell in a handcart, we have an immigration invasion problem, and we're seeing the consequences of it on our streets every day. They are being blamed for what is happening in terms of unrest. What is it about these people, these left-wing commentators, that they can't see what the actual problem is? What they want to do is to obfuscate and end up trying to gaslight us that the problem is Elon Musk's X platform because apparently it has some kind of weaponized algorithm, Ben.
I mean, it's the classic sort of lefty playbook. As soon as anyone disagrees with them, they want to shut them down. So that's why they hate Musk so much, because he allows a platform where people can say what they think and feel.
What do you think would have happened if Elon Musk hadn't famously bought Twitter, now X, for $44 billion 4 years ago, which he says he didn't do for any commercial imperative. He did it because he wanted to preserve free speech, knowing how powerful the platform is. Where do you think we'd be now on a free speech basis if X, let's say, was owned by the Chinese?
I mean, we would be nowhere near where we are now. You saw it in things like the during COVID and the run-up to the 2020 election in the US in particular, an active effort to silence accounts that were posting stories that weren't helpful to the Democratic administration at the time. So we would be in a real sorry state had Musk not come in and saved this platform. And like you say, he didn't do it from a commercial perspective. I don't think Twitter had actually turned a profit beforehand. I don't know whether it's done so now. I don't imagine it has. But this was like an actually really altruistic move to give people this platform in order to say how they think and what they feel.
So he should be applauded, really, for trying to preserve free speech across the world.
Absolutely.
Rather than derided that because of some algorithm, apparently, that dictates that because Twitter, X, I mean, is simply displaying the thoughts and opinions and feelings of billions of people across the world, right? That's the very essence of free speech, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
you should be able to say what you want to say.
Absolutely, it's a platform that anyone can use and can say what they're thinking.
And what's the alternative? The alternative is, and this was raised yesterday by a government member, a Labour government member, that suggested that in times of crisis and unrest, like we're seeing in Belfast, that actually the social media companies should instead censor what goes out. And there were MPs even criticising the fact that the video and the pictures of this guy, Howdy Aladid, towering over Stephen Ogilvy as he tried to behead him, that video should not have been shown, because apparently the video is the thing that causes the unrest. Well, I think the thing that causes the unrest is the lax immigration policy of countless governments allowing people in that would try and cut our heads off. Is it just me that thinks that?
No, not at all. You know, so the idea of sort of shutting down social media or having the social media companies censor what's being posted, you know, these are things out of sort of autocratic states. You know, the dictatorships that don't allow criticism. X is an incredibly important platform in my opinion.
Do you think we're eventually going to see Cathy Newman dressed up as is it that North Korean newsreader? Can we get a picture of her for later? Can we mock up Cathy Newman dressed as the North Korean newsreader? And the fact that, yes, in North Korea and other places that are totalitarian, that are authoritarian, you end up with the government owning the news and the narrative, and the government telling you what is true, telling you what is happening and what isn't happening. The whole kind of, I know you saw it, but don't believe your eyes and ears. We'll tell you what to believe. I mean, that is literally the definition of Orwellianism. It's literally Marxism, but you've got members of this government, the Labour government, actually suggesting that the public should not see what is true and factual because it might incite some kind of unrest. I would suggest that the unrest is not justified, but is something that we can all have empathy for on the basis that we have, as you said just now, Ben, this detachment between the public and politicians. So much so that Westminster bubble has kind of drifted off into some kind of rabbit hole where there is such a divide now between what the public feel and want and how they see Britain shaping versus the cotton wool kind of cosseted politicians of Westminster. I mean, the truth, if you like, and it's no coincidence that Donald Trump's own social media platform is called Truth, because, you know, truth should prevail.
Absolutely, and you know, on this sort of point of it being sort of Orwellian and what have you, and it's like that saying, you know, 1984 was a warning, not an instruction manual, and yet you have politicians in Westminster who simply think, oh well, if we don't like what somebody's saying, we're just going to shut them down and prevent them from saying it. Even though they're often getting news from it's simply getting news from other people that aren't part of the established sort of media class.
Yeah. There's also, of course, another Orwell novel called Animal Farm, which is all about fat pigs with their noses in the trough. I'll leave you that thought for a second as we start thinking about the Makerfield by-election and indeed the race to be the next Prime Minister of this country between Keir Starmer, Ed Miliband, Angela Rayner, Andy Burnham and Wes Streeting. Just leave you with that thought there, hovering in your mind for a second. What else should we talk about?
Well, there are a couple of things. So just on Makerfield, there was some, I think on social media the other day, there was talk about the cost of potentially two by-elections, so the Makerfield by-election and one for the Greater Manchester mayoral role.
If Andy Burnham wins.
If Andy Burnham wins.
So to be clear, there'll have to be another by-election for the Manchester mayoral.
Yes, yeah. And the cost of this could run to sort of £4 to £5 million. And this is a cost that taxpayers are going to have to pick up, because the Labour Party have had a bit of a fit over who leads them. It's just ridiculous that taxpayers now have to front that cost.
So because of Andy Burnham's whim, which is, I quite fancy being Prime Minister, let's do that. He persuades one of his mates to stand down, no doubt promises him something in the House of Lords if Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister. The cost of the Makerfield by-election, which I don't know what the constituency is, let's say it's 100,000 people, so mobilising that, all of the resources and the officers that have to then go into the running of that election, polling stations being manned, the count being manned, and so on. Not to mention all of the other, I guess, the soft costs, which is the other political parties, the media, and so on. So all of that costs. I mean, it's millions and millions and millions of pounds.
Yes.
Massive carbon footprint as well, by the way, all of you lot on the left, massive carbon footprint. I wonder if anyone knows what the carbon footprint is of the Makerfield by-election. Let us know in the comments if you can Google that now, our fantastic audience. That would be fascinating to know. But then, of course, yes, the kind of the backstabbing, I suppose it is, of Andy Burnham taking a job as Manchester Mayor. And I think, what's he on his second term? Third term? I don't know.
Yes.
I haven't paid much attention to him for obvious reasons. But then halfway through his term, decides to kind of switch horses without any regard, not just for the cost, to your point, Ben, but also the electorate that he's leaving behind.
Yeah.
Presumably, when he got elected, he did it with a straight face and looked at the electorate in that hall on the night of the count, and presumably had some semblance of sincerity when he said, yeah, I'm here to serve you for a full term. I'm going to do all the stuff I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
But instead, he's just switched horses and has stuck his fingers up, literally just stuck two fingers up at the people of Manchester look, without putting too fine a point on it, just to feather his own nest.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he fully turned around and he was saying when he was running that this is the best job in the world, this is the only one I want to do, and obviously he would do the full term, and he's, for his own political convenience, is now lumping taxpayers with potentially a cost of up to £4 to £5 million.
Ben, if it's 4 or 5 million quid, as you're saying, and I've seen that as well on social media, who should pay?
Well, I mean, it would ideally you'd think that the Labour Party ought to
Or
be
Andy
picking up
Burnham.
the tab, or Andy Burnham. Yeah,
I don't know how deep your pockets
Well,
are,
quite.
Andy Burnham, but you should pay back the taxpayer the 4 or 5 million quid that it might cost to satisfy your political ambitions, mate, shouldn't you? If not the Labour Party.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who agrees or disagrees with that, right? So you've got a by-election that's going to cost us all, by the way, because obviously the taxpayer pot is furnished by us all here. Surely you don't want to be on the hook for Andy Burnham's decision to have a little dalliance with the Prime Ministership of Great Britain. What else before you go, sir?
There was this other story of a minister taking to I'm not sure if they were on the BBC or not, but they turned around and said the reason they can't do more on student loan interest is because they need the money to pay for benefits.
What?
Yeah, to pay for benefits, and it's the same
the
story. There's this one here.
Where is it?
So this is in The Guardian.
The Guardian, you can't have that here.
Yeah, I know.
You can't open the Guardian webpage up in this
I know.
studio. Ben, what are you doing?
I'm worried this is going to explode
It will.
in a moment.
You won't get that laptop out of it. I'll tell you. So the Guardian reporting that the government have been asked to reduce the loan interest on student loans to help students or former students that are going to go out into the world. And the reason that, who is it? Who's the minister?
I think it was this Lucy Rigby.
Lucy Rigby, never heard of her. Great politician in her own bedroom, probably, or lifetime, or kitchen. I mean, any room, not just bedroom. So she thinks that it's okay to fleece former university students so that we can pay more benefits. Yeah, that sounds quite familiar, doesn't it, really? Because I think, didn't we have Pat McFadden recently saying that he sat in multiple meetings with the government in the last 2 years where all they talked about was, who can we tax more in order to pay more and more benefits? Are we getting the picture now?
I think that, it was this. His comment was something like every conversation he has with Labour backbenchers is who can we tax to pay more benefits?
Yeah, it is an absolute disgrace.
It's this ridiculous mentality from the Labour benchers and the government that they seem to exist just to pay a welfare bill. And it's taxpayers at the end of the day who pick it up.
Yeah, I found a comment here actually on what Lucy Rigby has said. And the narrative around it, trapping graduates in a lifetime of debt in order to fund breakfast for children whose parents should be feeding them at home, it said. I don't see how you can disagree with that, really. I think the job of providing breakfast for your kids and cleaning their teeth, for that matter, is yours as parents. I don't think it's the job of Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, frankly, but it does seem genuinely that the Labour Party think that not only is it their job to tell you what to do, and to how to parent, we did touch on this yesterday, but that we should all pay handsomely for it. I don't want to pay more tax so that you can, I don't know, so that the government can issue more Rice Krispies at 8 o'clock in the morning to kids that haven't been fed at home. And I don't buy, by the way, Ben, and you might have a data angle on this, I don't buy this nonsense, the narrative that is the government needs to step in to feed our kids because of the poverty line. There are no kids. Well, this is going to be controversial. There are no kids in poverty in Britain. There are no kids in poverty relative to the rest of the world, is what I'm saying, in Britain. We have a £250 billion benefit bill. We've got 22 million people that in one way or another are on some kind of benefit, mainly universal credit. So don't tell me with the state being so generous, inverted commas, with our benefits, and the fact that it seems that many on benefits live actually quite lavishly, I would say. Not all. I'm not saying it's not hard for people. I'm not saying that. But there is a benefit culture in Britain that now extends to, despite the fact that that £250 billion is sloshed around for benefit recipients, we've now got a government that thinks they need to go further in terms of subsidising the breakfasts of those kids because their parents won't feed them. How much is a bowl of Rice Krispies? Or how much is a slice of toast? I mean, I should know this. This is a classic politician question, isn't it? How much is a pint of milk? I think it's about 60 or 70p. And a loaf of bread's about £1. I think I'm about right, or that might be 1990s prices. I don't know. I can tell you what the price of a new 911 GT3 is, though. Anyway, a slice of toast. Oh, that sounded so bad. I'm kidding. The price of a slice of toast, is it 10p? Is it about 10p? Someone let me know in the comments. Slice of toast, butter, and a glass of milk for breakfast or whatever. I don't know how nutritious that is. That can't be more than 20 or 25p.
No.
So if you're pulling in up to 40 or 50,000 pounds in benefits every year, which some are, not all, how can you not afford 20 or 30p for a slice of toast, a glass of milk for your kids in the morning?
Well, quite. But there's also this wider point that these are often sort of blanket benefits that are handed out. No means testing or anything along those lines. And it's why should someone stacking shelves in Tesco's essentially be subsidising a middle class family to pay for their kids' breakfast?
Yeah.
It's completely unfair.
Yeah. Talking to kids, just for comedic value, can we play clip 10, please, Avina? This is very, very poignant. Given this clip comes from Mr. Menno, who we had on the show a day or two ago. Just watch this, just to brighten your morning. Own show. I mean, not only is he bang on when it comes to identity politics, I'm a boy. I can't get pregnant. No kidding. That's definitely true. But also manages to take the mickey out of his dad who's sitting behind him. Isn't that brilliant?
That's fantastic. I mean, that kid's got to be what, 2 years old maybe?
Yeah.
And he's got more sense than half the members of the cabinet.
Well, yes, no, indeed. Well, no, most of the members of the cabinet who don't know what a woman is, famously. But wow, okay. Also, there's something else I want to talk to you about. I'm going to definitely wind Kelvin Mackenzie up with this, but let's just do this first with Ben. This is David Lammy's choice of judge chooser in chief. Let me just play you this clip if I can find it. Hang on 1 second, everybody. So this is the fantastic rawness of this show. Number 5, please, Avina.
Do you agree that merit alone should be the sole consideration?
I don't believe that merit alone is the only consideration that the law allows. Merit is crucial, but so is a focus on diversity.
Do you agree that merit alone should be the sole consideration?
So that is Lynn Berry. Kelvin Mackenzie just walked in, and I'm going to really irritate him as soon as he sits down by playing in that clip again and asking for his comment. But that is Lynn Berry. I don't want to give too much away, actually, as Kelvin's sitting in the background here. She is the person that David Lammy has decided should decide to choose our judges. So she is going to be chief judge picker. And as you just heard there, she doesn't think that merit is important. What she thinks is important is your sexuality, the colour of your skin, and I guess whether you've got 1 or 2 legs. Ben, final words from you before I unleash Kelvin Mackenzie on the audience in a second.
I'm afraid I don't have much sympathy for that kind of approach.
It'd be very reserved,
as someone who doesn't tick many diversity boxes, I'm afraid no, that's a load of nonsense. We should base everything on merit, or as far as possible. Anyway.
Yeah. She had there was a quote from her that I found, which basically she said, the age of leadership being entirely at the behest of white, straight, middle-aged men is over. Doesn't say a lot for me, doesn't say a lot for Kelvin Mackenzie, who's about to join us. Don't know what we're going to do for our careers. I guess we'll have to have, I don't know, we'll have to become trans, won't we? Ben, thank you very much indeed. That was fun. Anything you want to say before you go? Anything I've missed? Anything that's screaming at you from the papers?
There was one other thing on the how the BBC destroyed Doctor Who.
Go on.
And essentially, people may or may not have seen that they've basically cancelled the show, put it out to tender is how they put it. But basically, its viewership took a total nosedive when they started pushing the woke agenda.
Yeah, but that was years ago, wasn't it?
Well, indeed. But it's had a sort of a real rocky time over the last few years, and you've had sort of drag queens and a pregnant man.
Drag queen aliens.
There was a pregnant man.
Disabled Cybermen.
So.
You couldn't make this stuff up, could you?
Really couldn't.
So who knew that if you decided to enforce a woke agenda on a Doctor Who audience, as woke as that might be, because it watches the BBC, that they switch off?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
And you know what the problem is, of course, because it's the BBC, they don't care because there's no accountability, because you're going to pay through the nose with your licence fee anyway.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Benjamin Elks, Taxpayers Alliance. Anything new coming up with you guys? I know you issue fantastic reports and lots of insightful data.
We've got some really interesting stuff, particularly around sort of the World Cup and beer duties come on the way. So,
beer duty?
Beer duty. I won't spoil it, but keep an eye out for it. It should be coming out next week.
Okay, all right, fantastic. And Rachel Reeves will be happy, will she, in terms of the enormity of that beer
I
duty?
imagine she's going to be very happy. People in the pub probably won't be.
Yeah. More stuff to waste our hard-earned tax pounds on, no doubt, she'll come up with. Maybe they'll start spending on the things they should do, which is stopping unfettered immigration, putting more police officers on the streets, and maybe lowering taxes. That'd be a good idea. That would be what amounts to growth, in my view. But anyway, we'll see. Okay, what we're doing now. The news, I think. We haven't seen him all morning. Edward Hughes, good morning, sir.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. Violence has erupted in Belfast following a knife attack that seriously injured a man. Police deployed water cannons amid a second night of disorder, with crowds throwing bricks and bottles. The victim's family has appealed for calm, while officials warn of destabilising anti-immigrant unrest. In politics, Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces pressure over defence spending and leadership questions, with clashes at PMQs and debates on immigration, national security and tech firms' role in protecting children from explicit images. 2 migrants were jailed under new small boats laws, and economic forecasts show slower UK growth amid global pressures. Other stories include updates on the Sarah Sharif case and calls for calm in Northern Ireland. Tensions remain high as authorities monitor the situation closely. Laters, tigers.
There you go.
Sorry, Edward froze there for a second. I think there's a glitch in the machine. But not anymore, because I'm joined by Kelvin Mackenzie. Good morning.
Hello, matey. Morning.
I want to wind you up with a few things.
Good.
I think I just wound you up. I know you could hear in the background there. Lynn Berry, the wonderful, the David Lammy pick to be Chief Judge Chooser. So she's currently the head of the Equalities Commission. Can we just play the clip again, just in case Kelvin didn't see it?
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Do you agree that merit alone should be the sole consideration?
I don't believe that merit alone is the only consideration that the law allows. Merit is crucial, but so is a focus on diversity.
God, sorry.
Right, I'm going to unleash the Mackenzie. Go.
Well, clearly she's the wrong person to do the job. She gets the job because of those statements. And had she said the other stuff, which said, actually, we're only going to choose people who are any damn good, right? She would have never got the job. How the hell did we ever get into this situation? So we've got this lady. I'm sure she's got brains, right? But there are a lot of people with brains out there. The question is, have you got common sense? That should have been her question. She could have said they've got to have merit associated with common sense. If she said that, she wouldn't have got the job either, would she?
But Kelvin, this isn't new, is it? I would suggest that the reason that we have a 2-tier justice system is because people like Lynn Berry have existed in the system in terms of the choice of judiciary for decades.
Look, no, not only in the choice of the judiciary, but actually in the choice of most things, because you can see from that po-faced look that she's got when she gets asked a straightforward damn question, that actually she's been looking at that, looking like that every time anybody said anything. Well, why don't we just have people who are any good at what they do?
Do you think she's offended by the question?
Oh, yeah, she'd be offended by the question. And by the way, she would normally, can you imagine her sitting as chair of a whole group of people if anybody said, for instance, anything that you might believe, or I might believe, or your listeners or your viewers might believe, right? You know what that looks like? You know what that looks like? You know? In business, what happens when you have one of those is there's a bloody great explosion, right? Which normally either clears the air or craters the deal. In her case, just that look of some rather strange woman, right, who I suspect, has she been, right, I don't know her background, perhaps people watching right now might to look her up online and fill up my bucket of ignorance about this woman, right, who's clearly quite important, and yet nobody would ever know anything about her. And if you hadn't spotted, or somebody hadn't spotted this particular clip of reviewing, we wouldn't know what actually goes on at the top table. My question is, where does her background? I suspect her background all her damn life has been on the civil service up ladder.
It's funny you should ask.
Okay, here we go.
Because the fantastic brain of the operation here, Charlotte, producer extraordinaire, will tell us, and has told me. So let me just tell you.
Okay, fine.
Career, Quango and Charity Chief, 5 CEO posts, including the WRVS, the General Social Care Council, the Charity Commission and the Family Welfare Association. She's currently chair of the Human Tissue Authority.
What, the HTA?
Well, famous
the HTA.
and so important. Pro-Chancellor at the University of Westminster. But her key job, this is the thing, is that she is, of course, you all realised, Chief Executive of the Equal Opportunities Commission. That's her job now. The body's entire statutory purpose, says Charlotte, is group-based equality enforcement. The HTA policy line is equality is not about treating everyone the same, which we heard from Lammy, of course, on the Sunday shows. This is the quote, in her own words, in 2017, Kelvin. Leadership is no longer synonymous with the heroic, straight, white man. She actually written that herself as a byline in the charity sector press. She got a CBE, of course she did, services to nonsense. We are part of a dynamic, inclusive, global community, she says, praising her Cambridge College's commitment to social justice and inclusion. This is where it's all going wrong, isn't it?
Well, the problem with it is, if she came out and said, look, actually, I don't care what damn colour you are, if you've got any brains, we want you either sitting on the bench or being given an opportunity in life. I don't disagree with that. I absolutely embrace all that. But what's happening is, clearly from the way she announces it, she is saying that some people will get preferment over others based on either colour or sexuality. And it's at that point, then I am sure that people who are of different skin colour to mine and have different sexuality to mine saying, I don't want that either. I don't want to think that I have just been promoted because I happen to be gay, right? I don't want that. What I want to think is that actually I'm the best person for the job. What is wrong with that?
Well, obviously, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with common sense and meritocracy? Obviously, the answer is nothing.
Right. So this is my issue about what Badenoch said the other day. So I got the impression, okay, they're going to get. The Tories are going to absolutely destroy Macclesfield, right? Everybody.
2%, 3%.
Yeah, whatever it is. Okay. She herself, actually, has started moving towards where we are, right? And actually away from where the Conservatives have been for the last 14, 20, 25 years, actually. So she was saying that basically she's going to do away with a lot of that equality stuff, which means that this woman, this is her last hurrah. I suspect, looking at her, all right, she's not nowhere near as old as me, but nobody is, right, that she is probably in her late 50s, right? And this is she's got 3 years of this, and then she's out. Now, in those 3 years, she could cause people who view life as we do, and I suspect as your listeners and viewers do, right, a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you think, if you were a politician, that is a good idea? The only thing is that they think that this kind of 20% view of life is one that should dominate the
Well,
100%.
because
view.
they share the same ideology, and we know that the left do, the Lib Dems, Labour, and so they share the same ideology, which is an overreach when it comes to equality in order to make all outcomes equal. The trouble is, not all outcomes should be equal.
And
it's a bit like what Sarah Pochin, who was on the show yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, she was absolutely castigated by what she said a few months ago, which is, why is there a disproportionate amount of black and brown people on TV adverts? And the left erupted and said, this is utterly outrageous. You can't say that. Well, I can tell you, as a matter of data and statistics, she's right.
Yes. Well, actually, there's a very interesting thing now. You know, I am told that I don't know whether it's the Advertising Standards Authority or a subgroup of that no agency would ever put forward a totally white advert. You know, I'm talking about a major retailer, right? Whether you are Sainsbury's or you're making the baked beans, it doesn't matter, right? Because it would get rejected.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it's not a question. It is not a question that actually the retailer is saying we should be all-encompassing, which I get, by the way. I totally get that. If I'm trying to flog something, right? I'm in the retail business. I don't want to exclude anybody.
No, but Kelvin,
but you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice.
You don't. And there is another body. I think it's something Shawcast, something like that.
Yeah.
That signs off TV adverts.
Correct.
Right?
I think it's them.
I won't say his name. I know the chairman, and he's actually a very, very sensible chap. But he might say, and I'm not saying he has said this to me, Mark, that there is a culture now. But in terms of having to make sure that there is a disproportionality and overreach and inequality actually in adverts in terms of showing a disproportionate amount of brown and black skins just to keep everybody happy.
Well,
but the thing is, Kelvin, I don't look at Tesco's and them having an advert full of white people for their dinners for one, for instance, and think they must be racist. I don't automatically assume that. It's the same as when I drive past my local town hall, which I happen to be a part of in terms of Brentwood Borough Council. Yeah. I don't need to see a pride flag in order to think, oh, they're not homophobic. It's performative nonsense.
Yes. Look, I would like to hear the black or brown version of the other end of that argument to say to them, when they see an advert, do they think to themselves, oh, there's one of mine on there? I do hear that. I do hear that often. Often I hear that.
I'm not saying there shouldn't be any brown or black people in adverts. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there should just be a casual proportionality.
Okay, well, yes. So I hear a lot of people, when I hear minorities talking, for instance, often famous people, they literally used to say, if somebody of their similar skin appeared on television, they used to get their friends in, their family, and they said, look, X and Y. And this was a joy-making. Now, the question is, that would be like a 60s or 70s talk, really. But in 2026, I know this is making a cheap point, you could actually say, if you're a white person, you say, here, there's one of ours on there. No, that is a joke. That is a joke. That is an absolute gag.
It's not a joke.
No, that's a gag. That's a gag.
Joke.
However, I am not against. I want people to feel happy in the damn country. Yeah. And honestly, I feel that the country is very, very unhappy, sometimes on the basis of the point that you're making, that actually we don't feel as one because we aren't as one. And my God, you've only got to look at the streets of the country to know that there is something that has gone completely wrong. Over the last couple of weeks, with the murder of poor Henry and the outcomes that showed, right? Suddenly the politicians, politicians for everybody, except our government.
Yep.
Not one damned word except from a prime minister who says that basically this was terrible, right? And then the conversation ends. It isn't terrible. This is what we intend to do. These are the changes we're going to make.
But he makes the statement that he's appalled and it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. And that's the hand-wringing bit. And I'm sure he means that. I'm not saying he doesn't. But then, of course, there's a pause. And whether it's Ed Davey yesterday in the House of Commons or Keir Starmer on Twitter since, they then itch to get to the next bit. And the next bit is what we're going to talk about in a second, Kevin, if we can, which is, let's deflect towards the so-called far right. It's their fault. Can we just look at what Richard Tice was confronted with yesterday?
Okay.
This is a clip that we've got, which number 7, I think.
asked whether or not you condemn the violence that we saw in Northern Ireland overnight, perhaps in part because of comments Nigel Farage made last week in relation to the Henry
Nonsense.
Noble.
Absolutely ridiculous. Paul, that is outrageous. You know it is. End of story.
I'm just asking.
Well, and I've just answered. Thank you very much.
Does
Paul.
it concern
That
you?
is outrageous. Paul, you've asked your question and I've answered it.
Sorry,
That's
I actually didn't ask a question.
Jonathan
The question is, does it concern you
Jonathan
that you have
Walker,
to be
The
asked?
Express. That's a revolting accusation to make, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Jonathan Walker of The Express.
Richard Tice handling that perfectly there.
Yeah.
And another example.
Yes, by the way, that was well done by Richard Tice, because Richard Tice's natural reaction, right, is to get on the front foot and throw a right-hander, okay? So I'm pleased to see that either whether it's because you've done the job for a while now, you basically have to soak it up and then try and maintain a fairly straight face, because immediately you get bad-tempered, the question has won, right?
Yes.
Because the camera is looking at you. That's their only interest in you. They're not interested in the question. They're interested in how fired up you are, how violent you are. And if you can actually soak it up and do it like that. So Richard, I would say, had improved in his media skills dramatically.
And not just soak it up, but he's bounced the narrative back, as if to say, because we've heard the narrative from Starmer and Ed Davey, and also now by way of the left-leaning media. I mentioned Cathy Newman earlier on, which you may not have heard, which was her outrageous show yesterday. The whole show was about the far right.
Can I just tell you something about that, Cathy?
Please do.
Newman show. Right, they've spent an absolute fortune, a total dud.
This
by
is
the
a
way.
Sky. She's gone from Channel 4 to Sky.
Total dud, by the way. 100% ocean-going dud, right? And so she goes on there. They spend a fortune in marketing and this, that, and the other.
And on her.
On her personally and on her show, right? The audience, honestly, there are almost as many people probably watching you right now. In the online world, a total disaster. And even on Sky, GB News are out rating them about 3 or 4 to 1. GB News tell me they wish they could have a whole 24 hours of people like her. So they would make a fortune.
Because people are switching off and turning on to them.
They don't want, nobody wants that kind of stuff. And what is incredible about it, so the only reason that Sky News exists, as you well know, is that Murdoch gave a dowry to Sky News, said, here, I will give you effectively about £70 million a year to lose over the next 10 years. 700 million quid. They've got 3 years to go. They've got 3 years to go. They're losing 60 or 70 million a year. Sky itself, which I admire, I still admire, perhaps I'm an old person that likes
it was great
that
under Murdoch.
network.
It was great under Murdoch.
Yeah.
The same as Sky Australia. It's still great. They have that brilliant show, by the way, which you've got to catch, which is Lefties Losing It. I'd love to replicate that, by the way, Pooh, on my show.
Right. Well, can I be honest with you? The difference is that Sky News is controlled by Ofcom. Yep. Why they bother? I don't know. Why don't they just say to the market, you want to be a bunch of lefties, fine. You want to be a bunch of righties, fine. Oh, by the way, you want to be down the middle, fine, right? Why don't you do what you do actually in the rest of your life? You turn on the television into a channel or a show that you actually enjoy. Why is it that with politics, which is now so divided, imagine how many channels you could have. Green channels, reform channels, restore channels, don't restore channels. It doesn't, antique, please restore channels. You can have any effing bloody channel you like. In this country, you can't have the damn things, right? So we want more of her. We want more of her because it is destroying Sky. And I have no idea. So Sky, I think, feel that they've got to have a political aspect to their business, because if they don't, they end up just being an entertainment channel. What's wrong with that?
They're regulated by the Ofcommunists, the censors. They are censors, right? Who, as I've said countless times on this channel, they are designed to tell us what we should think and what truth is, and also
and what news is,
But also, they insult the intelligence of the public, that they don't think that you or I or our brilliant audience here can decide one way or the other what's left, what's right, what's true, or whatever. But that's why we're seeing the rise of UK Live as a channel. Mike Graham, Dan Wootton, and others. And every time a channel lurches left, which Sky have done under Comcast. And I have to say, Talk did it famously. They lost £100 million, News UK, putting on people like Vanessa Feltz, Nicola Thorpe, and others, and they're lovely individuals. I mean them no disrespect. But it wasn't the audience for a left-leaning bunch of presenters that simply, I mean, I put a lefty on here for 10 minutes yesterday, Kelvin. Do you know what happened?
Yeah, the audience
comments
collapsed.
exploded. Hated it.
Yeah, they hate
I had
it.
to apologise. I mean, it's a fake apology, as you all know. But I had to apologise for putting Matthew Holbert on.
Yes, it is a problem. It is a problem. But when you say put him on, do you mean interviewed him, you mean?
I hated what he had to say. Because I wound him up and said, I presume in the wake of what's happening in Belfast, diversity is still our strength, and you still favour open borders.
Yeah.
And of course he fell right into the trap and said, yeah.
Can I ask you this? Was he in favour of the border between, or the non-border between Southern Ireland and Northern Ireland? Did he say that should continue like that?
Yeah, on the basis that I asked him if he still favours open borders.
Because the whole of the left want open borders.
Yes, and
so
he
they
admitted it.
They view Ireland as the great idea.
The back door, the great back door.
Yeah, so you can come in. And I fear that what's going to happen now is that the numbers that try and get into Dublin and then onto the north will now simply explode as people realise that they don't have to bother to take a boat or anything. They could simply walk across the damn thing.
I've got to be quick, because we've got Chris Rose waiting. I think it's Chris Rose, isn't it, waiting to speak to us?
Yeah, go on.
Here's the number. There are now 2,370 asylum seekers in asylum accommodation in Northern Ireland.
Right.
Guess how many over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years have been deported back to Ireland?
One.
Yeah. Did you hear it earlier on?
No, I read it. I read it.
He's a very informed man. Yeah. Are you hanging about?
No, I hang about for a while, enjoy myself.
I'm sure that is absolutely brilliant. Should we speak to Chris Rose? Chris, my friend, how are you?
Morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very well, thanks. Thanks for joining me. I know you're a regular on the show, but and you and I follow each other on social media and generally support each other with common sense views, I think, Chris, is fair to say, don't we? Yes. Let's talk about the blame game that Kelvin and I have just been talking about. Let's have a little look at a poll. You might want to get involved with this, Chris, actually. Here's our poll this morning, which asks who is to blame for the Belfast unrest. Is it Elon Musk, as has been trailed by Ed Davey, Nigel Farage, as being trailed by the likes of Keir Starmer and Cathy Newman? Is it the fault of a Sudanese beheader? I think that might be the winner. Or is it the fabled far right? I think the audience has spoken. 3,500 votes. Of course, look, there's a comedic value to that poll. It's pretty bloody obvious, isn't it, whose fault it is? So why are we getting this distraction nonsense, Chris, from the left-leaning media and politicians who don't want to acknowledge the problem, which is unfettered immigration and people who would come here to try and kill us sometimes? Not all of them, but many of them. Why is the problem all of a sudden the X algorithm and Nigel Farage saying that we should be outraged?
I think they're just trying to go for an easy target. They're so used to demonizing people like Elon Musk, Nigel Farage, and this so-called far right that they imagine in their head, that they don't want to confront that the open border policy and experiment that they supported for so long has actually resulted in a Sudanese person going and killing, well, attempting to kill somebody by beheading them on a street in the UK. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, nobody thought to themselves, I'm going to wait to see what Nigel Farage, Elon Musk, or Rupert Lowell posted. We saw the footage ourselves. We were outraged. We were disgusted. We knew in our hearts that something about the immigration system, the open asylum system that's completely broken, has something to do with this. But they want to focus on what they naturally want to confront, because it's easier for them to say, oh, Nigel Farage posted this, and that's the reason why people are doing what they're doing in Belfast at the moment. No, it's not, because we've voted consistently for a better asylum system, but what have we got? We've got someone who was granted leave to remain, who tried to behead someone. That's not a good asylum system at all.
No. So to clarify, they're trying to blame the comments of pure cold rage that Nigel Farage made in the wake of the unrest in Southampton. They're saying that somehow has contributed to what happened in Belfast and has done over the last couple of nights. But, I mean, you'd have to be a pretty thick individual to think that the public of Northern Ireland, who are no strangers to a bit of trouble, let's be honest, that they need someone like Nigel Farage to talk about, maybe you should be a bit angry about this. I mean, clearly the reason they've taken to the streets is because they've got 2,300 asylum seekers in asylum accommodation in Northern Ireland, and one of them has just tried to cut off the head of a local Northern Ireland guy by the name of Stephen Ogilvie. I mean, you don't need to be provoked. You don't need a reason. And again, I'm not condoning unrest or violence or arson. I'm really, really not. But whilst we still have politicians that remain so out of touch in their bubble that they truly believe that the obfuscation is correct in terms of blaming the consequence and the unpopularity measures, the outrage on the streets by way of these Brits that are protesting about the state of Britain and the direction it's going in. We are never, ever, ever, Chris, going to fix this, are we?
No, not at all until most of this current parliament get voted out, frankly. Because, people in Ireland, they don't mess about. If somebody attacks one of their people, they absolutely will take to the streets and they will demand justice and they will not stop. I mean, it's good, to be honest, to see people actually care about their community and not just say, oh, we're just not going to look back in anger, we're just going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya until this issue goes away. No, someone was tried to be beheaded. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know how you can look back and say, oh, we're just going to say thoughts and prayer. This is a literal beheading in a first world civilized country. This should not be something we would even have to be talking about. It should not happen at all. And I look back at when Lee Blixby was beheaded, and I think that was supposed to be in the time that they looked back and said, actually, we're going to do something now. But they spent most of the time talking about so-called Islamophobia. And now, over a decade later, we're having the scenes over again. And I think it's frankly disgusting that nothing's actually changed in a so-called first world civilized country. Yeah, because we should look at this now.
Thoughts and prayers, Chris, and lessons will be learned. And of course, that's just the most irritating and empty phrase that is constantly used, because no lessons are learned. And if politicians won't turn their focus towards the source of the problem, which is their immigration policy, the fact that we allow these undocumented, unknown individuals into our country from cultures that are different, and I would say in many instances inferior to ours, where they treat women the way they do, where they perhaps actually have got a culture of civil war and savagery and so on, which look, Sudan just has, right? That shouldn't be an unpopular opinion to have. Sudan has been beset by civil war for the last few years. Millions of people have been displaced, and people regularly do, as was suggested in the House of Commons, I think yesterday, have their heads cut off. And if you import that kind of savagery into Britain, then I'm afraid the consequence will be that savagery ends up on the streets of Britain. And Sarah Pochin made that point very, very clearly yesterday. It's a bit like, though, Chris, isn't it? It's like blaming the Times for a narrative around Hitler invading Poland, blaming the Times for the fact that the Second World War erupts.
Exactly. I mean, we look at these people who we're importing, they are frankly just alien cultures. I mean, there's no easy way to say it. They're just alien to me. I mean, if you go around thinking, oh, it's okay to behead someone, then what do I have in common with you? That's not a strength of diversity. That's the divisive thing. People talking about it aren't being divisive. It's the people who are actually actively going out and try to cut people's head off. They're being the divisive one, because I don't want to remain around them. If I had children, I wouldn't want them to be around these people. Nobody, it's not just skin color, it's about culture. And, not all cultures are the same at all.
No, let's just ask Kelvin what he thinks. Chris says they're alien cultures, are they, Kelvin?
Well, some of them are. No. I think we've reached the point now where we need just to have a pause. It might be 3 years, 5 years, it might be 7 years, matter of some debate in Parliament about whether we can take in any more migrants into the country. Now, I totally accept the idea that actually one of the things that I worry about the white community is that they don't work hard enough. And I worry that who is going to put in the long hours, either as an entrepreneur or as a chap or a lady working behind the counter, who is doing that work, right? Because I don't see the queue a mile bloody long of white people doing the thing. So actually, it may be we do need people. Why don't we do what we do in Dubai, which is actually they get visas for employment, right? And as long as they keep their nose clean, pay their rents, and don't get involved in any crime, they can stay here. And if the job doesn't sustain, then they can move on to another one. And if that doesn't happen, then they have to go back to their country. But actually, we can't take any more in. Right? That is at my moment, because what's happening is that we are getting ourselves extremely upset and rioting. Now, I hated what happened in Belfast. I absolutely detest it. I'll tell you why. I want people to take to the streets I want massive marches in this country to try and stop this. What I don't need is a number of thugs who seem to hate the cops as much as they can't understand the argument, trying to basically beat our cops up. I don't want them. I don't want fires. I don't want anything. I just want ordinary protests on the street so that politicians understand that something has to happen. We have a government today that says, actually, this was terrible. We're not doing anything. We are not doing anything. We have the Tories, who are at least as responsible as any other single group of political masters who have caused the problem. We have the Lib Dems who say nothing must be done. We have the Greens that have nothing must be done. I want somebody to say, actually, I'm sensible. I think we've reached the end of the line on this. We're going to stop this. We're going to pause it. We're going to bring in new visas. We're going to bring in new ideas. And it's as simple as that.
And Chris,
why won't anybody say any of that? What stops it? It's not about racism.
Reform are saying that. So Reform have said in the last 24 hours that they would stop all visas from people from Sudan. I think we should go further. I think that anyone from Sudan or Somalia, a proven country whereby there is an issue disproportionately in terms of the people that come here that would seek to hurt us, and we know that Sudan is definitely the top of that list at the moment, that even those that come from those countries that seek asylum should be stopped. Because it's all very well stopping the visa program and saying, right, no more Sudanese from a visa perspective.
Yep.
They can still come here on a boat and plead asylum. Chris, would you agree with that? Stopping all entrance from Sudan into Britain? All?
Absolutely. I think it should have happened some years ago. I think there should be, countries on a red list that we just don't let in. I think Afghanistan, I think that's one of them as well. I think Somalia, yes, absolutely. I mean, there's the data supports that
Scotland.
These people coming in are a threat. Well, I wouldn't argue with that, to be honest. But there are countries that show that data, from these people that, frankly, most of them men as well, are a threat to our children, a threat to our women. And we can't really argue against the data just to support an open and border experiment. We should take action against it, because that's the point of a government, is to put the safety of its citizens first. And if they're going to open the borders to countries where it shows that the dangerous men do come here and commit crimes, then they're not really protecting us as citizens. So I do agree with putting Sudan on the ban list. I think it should happen as soon as possible. If Labour actually had any good intentions, they would do that. So they would copy Reform's policy and implement it straight away. But it looks as though we're going to have to wait for a general election for a Reform government to put this thing in place, which I think hopefully it won't be too late by then.
Chris, the experiment, though, has been played out in other countries, isn't it? We look at the state of Germany, France to a lesser extent, but the real outlier, I think, in terms of the number one example is Sweden. Sweden was a real peace-loving, calm country until they opened the floodgates, because they're left-leaning, because they're socialists, basically, as most of their administrations have been. And the floodgates opened, and then they allowed in people from Somalia, Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, and so on. And the demographic and therefore the behaviour changed. And all of a sudden, there's scuffles that then become sexual assaults, that then become grenades being thrown and bombs being made, and arson attacks, often perpetrated by the demographic that has invaded that country. And we saw it play out. So we should have kind of taken heed of that, shouldn't we? Why are we so stupid that we just can't look across into somebody else's country and see how this failed immigration bonanza experiment plays out?
Exactly, we should have done. And I know that's why I kind of have something against broadcasters like the BBC, who failed to really report on it for some time. It's like they just don't want to touch on it. And we have the Labour politicians and even some Tory politicians in the past who didn't really want to recognise it. They want to talk about it. Again, they said talking about it was divisive, even though the evidence was right there. The examples and the precedent was there. So if we did look at them and think to themselves, well, this is happening there because they've let in these amount of people from these countries, but then we thought to ourselves, oh, actually, we're going to do the same. We're going to open it here to these people to come in as well and give them visas and leave to remain. And it hasn't worked out for us as well, because history just repeats itself. If you let in the same people from the same type of place and they come here, then the same cultures will then do what they usually do, which is to, possibly sexually assault our women and, try and murder people, which we've seen countless times over and over again. And it's always the same countries where they're from. So
And Chris,
we need to just do.
we've seen it play out, haven't we, time and time again, as you say. But also, isn't there a madness definition there that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, that's the very definition of madness. Chris, got to let you go because we've got Lee Harris waiting on the line. But thank you very much indeed, Chris. Good to see you. I'll see you on social media no doubt very, very soon. Cheers, mate. Good to see you. Still joined by Kelvin. I don't know how long he can stay, but as my wingman now, whoever thought? Me, I'm just a gobby estate agent from Essex. I've got Kelvin Mackenzie here, a legend of media. The Wolf of Fleet
By the way,
Street.
can I just interrupt
Wolf
here?
of
I've
Fleet Street.
just read, just in the front page. This, by the way, it's like an old idea.
This is his old rag, right?
Yeah, this is like an old idea. It might have, if they were going to do it, they should have done it next week, right? Because we don't play for a week, and we want them to do well, but it's the hope that kills you, as they say.
It's not coming home, Kelvin. Don't start giving me all that nonsense.
No, it's buggering off, actually. It's buggering off. It's buggering off.
It's buggering
Football's buggering off. No,
actually, be careful how you sing that.
They played against Costa Rica's second 11. They played quite well yesterday. But anyway, this is what makes me laugh. You carry the dreams of a nation that's had it tough. Can I just point out, the reason we've had it tough is because Labour have come in, overtaxed us, ruined a lot of young people's lives because there are no jobs in what were traditionally areas of work that they could look forward to. They were the people who 2 years ago, on July the 3rd or 2nd or something, said, whatever you do, vote Labour, right? And by the way, it was unequivocal that the future, sunlit uplands, all that crap, right? Why don't they say, dear England, we're so sorry we got it wrong. We're so sorry we ruined it. Cheer us up.
Well, can I just add that your old newspaper here, who I know you're not associated with anymore, but The Sun supported the Labour Party in government before they got elected. The editor of The Sun put herself and the newspaper behind the Labour Party in 2024 and supported getting Keir Starmer elected.
Oh, yes.
I wonder how she feels now. We've got to go to Lee Harris because he's been patiently waiting. Stay there, Kelvin, if you can. Yeah. Lee, my friend, how are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
Good. I was watching your...
Overwhelmed with common sense.
It won't catch on. It won't catch on. This is one of the only places I think that you're ever going to see it. Outspoken, opinionated, shooting from the lip, and loads of common sense. Yes, it's hopefully infectious. We'll see. You were tweeting yesterday, I think, about the blame game thing that we were talking about yesterday, and how apparently billionaires and party political leaders of the centre-right are responsible for unrest on the streets of Britain, but not the person that actually tried to behead a Briton.
Yeah, it's been absolutely infuriating. And it's funny that they're all calling for calm, right? Everyone's telling us how we should feel. Everyone's saying that we need to be calm after witnessing what we've all witnessed over, well, actually not just what happened in Belfast, but what happened with Henry Novak. And actually what's happened, we're seeing more regularly now, sadly, with migrants who've attacked or murdered or worse, the British citizens. And everyone keeps telling us to keep calm. And I don't know about you, but it's making me more angry. And what's making me more angry, is watching episodes of Newsnight like I did the other night, where the entire focus is on the reaction and absolutely nobody is prepared to talk about the solutions or what's causing the problem in the first place. I found it absolutely horrendous listening to the lady from, I can't remember where she's from, not DEP, because they seem to be quite sensible on the issue. But she was saying that absolutely nobody comes up with any issues. And she was suggesting things like housing as being the thing that people are frustrated about. And these people are so detached. It's, in my view, it's making the situation worse. And I think what politicians need to do, what politicians and commentators need to do on the left, is they need to reflect back what the British people feel. They need to have some empathy. They need to show that they understand what we understand. Because my biggest frustration as a commentator is seeing this massive disconnect between, our leaders and what people on the street. Russell, I know you speak to a lot of people when you're out walking. So do I. I talk to a lot of people. I haven't spoken to a single person that doesn't feel the way I do. I have a lot of people, a lot of friends in the Labour Party, One of my closest friends I speak to every day is a Labour Party member.
And Lee, sorry to interrupt, but on that note, tell me how many people that you speak to in the street think that it's Elon Musk's fault that the streets of Belfast have erupted in violence?
Yeah.
Absolutely nobody. Don't get me wrong, I've spoken to people who don't like Elon Musk, but they don't blame him.
He's the purveyor of the platform that in itself is the promotion of free speech.
Exactly. And the fact that they're focusing, like that, for example, that tweet that we saw from Liz Kendall yesterday, which I found quite sinister, where she was saying that in times of crisis, we will be removing illegal content. And it always feels like it's X. She didn't actually specify X, but they certainly always say X and platforms like X, right? So they just say that it's always just seems to be focused on X. And it's so visible to the public. Everyone is seeing that they are focusing, they're trying to focus in clamping us down. What is it they said? We're not going to let you believe your eyes and your ears. They're trying to stop.
It wasn't just illegal content, and we can have a debate about what illegal content is versus someone's right to free speech. It was worse than that. It was in times of dissent and unrest, we will basically choose what goes out, because we don't want people, in terms of the misinformation or the hyperbole around an event, being disseminated to the public just in case they react in the wrong way, but including, and this is the thing, the very act of that individual, and I'm trying to forget his name, to be honest, but his name is Hadi Aludid, the guy that's been charged with the attempted murder, the attempted beheading of Stephen Ogilvie. Almost that footage shouldn't be shown, because that in itself causes unrest. No, the unrest is caused by the fact that this individual is in this country beheading people. Why don't we understand that?
Absolutely. I saw that clip from Irish television yesterday where they were just focusing on that, the fact that it seemed to them that the more pressing issue, what wasn't the migrant that was beheading someone, as you've said, it was the fact that video was being shown, and what they need to do about clamping down on people seeing the truth. I mean, I don't know. They must live on a different planet, Ross. I just don't understand.
Let me give you that quote. What you're talking about is Michelle O'Neill. So she's Northern Ireland's first minister, right? So just as bad as Starmer, as far as I can see. This is what she actually said. I wish people hadn't seen the video. Michelle, that is not the problem. The video is what they call evidence, right? That is what we call truth. No one doctored it. It is exactly what happened. And when you try and obfuscate the problem and then distract and somehow ludicrously make this about the so-called far right, British patriots, people that are worried about the direction the country's going in, protesting, Nigel Farage's algorithm. I mean, literally, that's what I think Ed Davey talked about in the House of Commons yesterday. He's blaming, Kelvin McKenzie, please inject some sense here. Yeah. He's blaming, Ed Davey's blaming the algorithm of X as being the problem here. Now, not only is there a free speech argument here, but no one talked very little about Stephen Ogilvie, very little actually about Axel Rudabikana, about Rhiannon White, about the Manchester Arena bombing, these people that come here from other countries that want to do us harm.
No, the issue for Ed Davey is rather more serious. He faces a problem in himself. They don't want him, the Lib Dems don't want him as their leader, so he has to go further and further to the left, hoping to find some kind of bounce, which has eluded Lib Dems, but has, for some bizarre reason, encapsulated the Greens. We are going to see more of this, actually, not less of it, so well done to your guest for highlighting this issue, that the free speech issue is free speech from the right, because for the first time ever, the right actually has the prevailing view. And that causes a problem as far as the Labour Party is concerned. When the trade union is stopping you getting to work because they've gone on strike and everything, that's a correct analysis, right, of oppressive bosses.
Lee, do you think that now?
So I can see more of this coming, and I could guarantee they've got 3 years now, so the clock is now ticking. The last year has to be based around giving some tax back and looking like good people, and we're going to do something about migration. That's out. So they've basically got 2 years in which to cause an ongoing problem. And that ongoing problem will definitely show itself in a new comms bill under Nandy.
Exactly the question I was just about to ask Lee. Do we think that as a consequence of this, the obfuscation, the distraction technique now will be, look, this is all about platforms on social media, it's all about Elon Musk and so on, and the very existence of those, but also the people that are on them, people like Nigel Farage. Do we think we're going to see legislation now in the next 12 months from the Labour government that seeks to shut down free speech?
Okay, I can be helpful on that. So the new chair of Ofcom has said that he is not scared to deal with the, quotes, GB News problem, unquotes. I absolutely guarantee to you that they come up with some legislation over the next year which will ban Farage from sitting as a presenter on GB News. So that may be their big throw. But actually, I guarantee that will be the way they run at it, right? Me, if I own GB News, I would take them on big time. I suspect that I suspect they might lose. At that point, I would go online and go behind a paywall, half of it on the paywall, half of it there. And by the way, I admire the investors tremendously. They've dropped 150 million quid of their money, not taxpayer money forced to pay through the bloody BBC, right? They've dropped 150 million bloody quid. Actually, by going going online and doing actually a live.
But they'll do what we're doing.
Yeah. But actually, probably there would be an element of pay in it. They would actually be more profitable. But they choose actually to carry on funding it. I don't know why. I love them for it. If it was my money, I couldn't lose 150 quid as with my current investment procedures at the moment. But this is going to be the beginning of an attack on free speech.
Lee, do you agree?
Yeah, no, that is Kelvin is absolutely right. And GB News have done it once already, don't forget. They took them to court and they won. And we already know that Ofcom, it has them under a microscope. And do you know what? I think they will come for GB News before they come for X because it's easier, right? It's far easier to go for GB News because they're in the realm of their target. But, they can easily catch them there. They will go for X. They're going to try, but they will fail. And this is also something to do with the fact that Labour just don't understand technology. Everybody, even my daughter, who's 11 years old, I could show how to use a VPN, and she'd be able to use it in 10 minutes. They will not be able to stop this, and this is, I think, again, this is why I think there is this the disconnect is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and people are only fighting. And I'm not just saying this because I'm now appearing on independent media. But there are going to be more and more people who feel that they're the only people who understand how they feel. The only people who really understand how they feel, not the politicians, are people like you guys on independent media, the Mike Graham show, Outspoken, other people that will actually have those real normal conversations to make people feel a little bit sane, that they're not actually losing their mind. Because could you imagine right now if all we had was mainstream media? If all we had was mainstream media, I actually think the situation would be even worse. I think the addition of independent media is actually keeping the public mildly sane at the moment.
Well, but honestly, that's why we should applaud and have gratitude towards Elon Musk for rescuing Twitter. Because if we remember back 3 or 4 years, Twitter, as it was, X now, was becoming something that was censored. I was removed from Twitter. Unfortunately, I'm back now, everybody, but I was removed for 4 weeks. And the reason was I was attacked by a load of pro-tenancy, anti-landlord people in my day job, which is kind of property PR. And for fun, I retweeted everything that they were saying about me, including pictures of guillotines, pictures of a wall with me standing in front of it with bullet holes in it. I thought it was amusing. So I was retweeting the abuse.
Yeah.
I got banned from Twitter. I got banned. And then so when Elon Musk bought it for $44 billion, whatever it was, which, as we said earlier on, was not a commercial endeavour, I thought, look, fantastic, because he's doing this to ensure that we have some central plank.
Yeah.
I'll come back to planks later, that reminds me. Some central plank of free speech and normality. Thank God, to Lee's point, that he did, because you imagine if we only now had Cathy Newman on Sky, Channel 4, the BBC. God. I mean, can you imagine? And The Guardian and The Mirror, which I ripped up yesterday, by the way. Do you know The Mirror, talking about you as a newspaper guy, Kelvin, it was page 21 on the Daily Mirror yesterday before they even mentioned Belfast. The front page of the Mirror yesterday was about the black referee that was refused entry to the US.
I don't know why you get excited about that. And I'll tell you why. Daily Mirror's going bust, right? Going bust. B-U-S-T, bust. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you. Guardian exists solely on other lefties sending them money, right? They say themselves that that's turned out to be a saviour. And actually, I'm pleased it keeps going. Because what would you have to hate if you didn't have it? Sky News losing 70 million a year, going bust, right? Everything on the left is unwanted. It's unwanted. It is very, very strange. Whereas on the right, which has never been served, despite what the politicians on the left would say, there's never been served, is actually flourishing. Decent audiences, right? Even when Mike Graham goes on vacation now, right? We now have somebody sitting there who is getting an audience of more than 7. I think that is
70,000,
No,
Mackenzie,
7.
if you don't bloody mind.
70,000.
70,000
I'm
yesterday.
joking. I'm
right,
joking.
before you go, quick answer, which I know is
Go on,
uncharacteristic
I've
for you, Kelvin. Will what's happened in Belfast in the last 48 hours affect the Makerfield by-election outcome, yes or no? And then to you, Lee, I'm going to ask you some questions.
I think that Rupert Lowe will do better and might be a surprisingly uncomfortable number. So I expect him to emerge as the sole winner of that election.
Lee, what do you think?
Sorry, did Kelvin say that he thinks that Restore
He doesn't think
would win the
Restore will
actual...
win it, but he thinks, I mean, Kelvin's saying Restore will end up with 15-20% of the vote. I don't think so. I think it'll be around 10. But anyway, does it affect the outcome?
10% would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But Lee,
it would be impressive. Obviously, it wouldn't be. I don't think that'd be good for the right altogether. I'm sure that,
because it lets burn them in.
I think it is going to have an impact on the Makerfield by-election in as much as the social media and, as we've been saying, independent media is having a major influence on the mood of the nation. A lot when, especially when something horrific happens, even people who aren't on social media do flock to social media because guess what? That's where they can actually find out the truth. Yeah. Everybody knows that now. Even people who really don't like social media know full well that if they really want to find out what's happened, if they want to find that clip or understand what's happened, the real truth of what's happened, everyone knows that mainstream media will be sanitizing the news anyway. They will go to social media. 4 or 5
hours behind. Yeah, Lee,
and that's where.
Edward Hughes is kicking off, apparently, because I should have gone to the news about 5 minutes ago. I'm so sorry, mate. Lee Harris, thank you very much indeed. See you on social media and in person, hopefully soon. Kelvin, I want you to stay. I don't know if you can or not, but I'm maybe overreaching here. Let's go to Edward Hughes. What do you got to say for yourself, Ed?
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes. Violence has erupted in Belfast following a knife attack that seriously injured a man. Police deployed water cannons amid a second night of disorder, with crowds throwing bricks and bottles. The victim's family has appealed for calm, while officials warn of destabilising anti-immigrant unrest. In politics, Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces pressure over defence spending and leadership questions, with clashes at PMQs and debates on immigration, national security and tech firms' role in protecting children from explicit images. 2 migrants were jailed under new small boats laws, and economic forecasts show slower UK growth amid global pressures. Other stories include updates on the Sarah Sharif case and calls for calm in Northern Ireland. Tensions remain high as authorities monitor the situation closely. Laters, tigers.
Coming soon, it's your chance to watch the fantastic Mike Graham and Friends live show from the O2 Shepherd's Bush Empire in May of this year. Many of you came and enjoyed the banter, the jokes and the serious moments as well, but many more of you were unable to join us for the memorable night. So now we want to offer you the chance to soak up the atmosphere in the comfort of your own home. Watch the brilliant Lewis MacLeod rattle through his impressions of Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, Keir Starmer, Nigel Farage, King Charles and even me, believe it or not. Chortle Intel Ladies' hilarious depictions of Angela Rayner, Hannah Spencer and Bridget Phillipson. Enjoy regular features like Plank of the Night, drink along with a special plonk presentation and the entire cast of the show. Witness the star-studded night with Carol Decker, Right Said Fred and loads of our regular guests like Will Geddes, Layla Cunningham, Russell Quirk, Marilyn Hayes, Stephen Barrett, Anna McGovern, William Yarwood, even Christo makes an appearance. To help us cover the production costs, we're charging just £10 to you. But if you're a paid subscriber to Substack or a YouTube show member, you can access the 2-hour performance for free. Thanks to all of you for supporting our brand new channel. We will be doing more live shows in due course, but for right now, this is your only chance to watch us all on stage together.
Never did I think that I'd be sitting on the stage at Shepherd's Bush Empire with you two legends, the Bright Said Fred guys. I mean, fantastic. I mean, have you seen, you probably played here anyway, have you seen the posters around the back of all the people that have played here?
No.
David Bowie's played here, the Rolling Stones have played here, you know, Alanis Morissette. I mean, literally anybody you can think of. You know,
people who haven't played here are us.
Well, it was a BBC theatre.
It was, that's
you
true.
know, the last time these guys came on my show, and you did come on very early on, thank you very much indeed, was around about the time that Macy Gray had been invited in to sing I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt, which is bloody awful, by the way. She did a really weird version of it, right?
Did you like it? I thought it was good.
Did you like it?
I actually liked it.
Did
yes.
you? Oh,
Yes.
great. You see?
Sorry.
What do I know?
Sorry,
right?
but-
I'll just leave. Anyway, no, but you were telling me that you wouldn't be allowed into the BBC to sing your own song because you've been blackballed by the BBC.
Yes.
Because of being far right.
Yes. Very far right.
Very far right.
So far right, we're now far left.
Welcome back. Do buy your tickets. I was at that live show. I had the honour and the privilege and the pleasure to be at it. Hopefully there will be some more. Pooch assures me, as does Mike, that there's going to be more of those live shows. Fantastic fun. And as you can see on the ticker below me, buy your tickets here at that Eventbrite link so you can actually watch back the fun that we had. And I have to say, a bit of emotion. You don't see Mike Graham getting emotional very often, but he did at the end, surrounded by his friends and an audience of nearly 1,000 people. He was, I think it's fair to say, pretty humbled and grateful for the support. Yes, what a family the Mike Graham Show is. Am I reading out some comments? Because there's been loads and loads and loads. We had, I think, 5,000 or 6,000 comments yesterday, whatever it was. Super chat here from Nancy Kirk, 6469. I think you are fab here and at Essex County Council. Wow, thank you. Someone's actually recognised my civic sacrifice. Thank you, Kelvin McKenzie. Doing great. What else we got? Anyone got anything else to say about me and Kelvin? Judas Goat Barbecue. You are censoring these handles, aren't you, Avina? Just in case I read something out that's extremely rude. Ironically and prophetically, oh, well, this sounds a bit intellectual, doesn't it, Kelvin? Ironically and prophetically in Animal Farm, the pigs force the others to build a windmill for electricity, which fails and later is used to grind corn for the pigs to sell for their own profit. Greetings from Texas. What's the message there, Kelvin?
Well, actually, I have some investment. I have a recent investment in America. It is a totally and completely different attitude towards how life works out. Me and my partner in the business, small business, right? And unusually for me, successful from day one. Normally about 10 years later, I have to write a note explaining why the thing has gone bust. But we go to the local bank and we say, could we speak to somebody who will lend us money? Literally.
But old school.
Right. And the lady says, yeah, go round and see Tom, the chief loan officer.
Yeah.
We walk round the corner. This is like a small place, no bigger than this studio, right? Bloke sitting there, nothing on his desk at all. And I said, oh, I'm sorry to bother you. Are you Tom? Are you the chief loan officer? He said, yes. I said, we've come here because we were looking to start an account and we're looking to borrow some money against an outcome, we hope. And he said, yeah, sit down. We sat down and spoke for an hour. You went to
Barclays or HSBC now.
You went to NatWest and Weybridge High Street. By the way, you get slung out.
You get slung out. You have to go back 3 weeks later for an appointment for them just to say no. We've got to move on. More super chats. Vina, could you please bounce that one back up again? Jane Ferguson, Kelvin DEI keeps white people at the bottom of the pile, making it more difficult to get employment. Oh, what does everybody think about that? And also here, Roy Boy 6890, the same people concerned about the protests are the exact same people that said the BLM riots and destruction was justified. Well, of course, because the argument has switched, hasn't it? Another super chat from Russell Palmer, cool name. Nice shutdown by the Tice man, absolutely. Richard Tice is very, very accomplished and very smart indeed. I was with him just 2 weeks ago, I have to say. An extremely smart man as Deputy Leader of Reform. Another super
Mind you, he'd be the first bloke to tell you that, though, wouldn't
he? Of course, yeah, well, wouldn't we all? Seaside Babe, that sounds interesting. Yeah, sounds like a girlfriend I had once. In our senior school in the Dales, we had to have posters of Muslims, Asians and black people displayed around the school, subsequent to an Ofsted inspection, by God. Right, let's go to Jamie Jenkins now, who's been waiting very, very, very patiently. Jamie, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting, but a lot to pack in this show, sir.
Yeah, morning, Ross. I think we need a bit of a check on that super chat where they were bigging you up at Essex County Council. Have you been putting the money into the pot yourself?
No, that's not working.
Well, I've only been elected for 4 weeks, so give us a chance. But we have found lots and lots of pots of money, a bit of waste. We cancelled net zero. That went down very, very well with my lot in terms of reform voters. Went down less well with the lefties, it seems. They want to kill me as a consequence of me cancelling net zero ideology in Essex. But it does save about £3.5 million of taxpayer money. Talk to me about some data and stats, because is there something coming out this week? I think GDP numbers tomorrow.
Yeah, well, the economy's not going in a good position at the moment, Russ, is it? And I think I was saying to Mike last week, where's Rachel Reeves at the moment? I don't think we're seeing her at all. I think so. Just a couple of figures that have been coming out this week. Probably one worth focusing on is the health of the nation, Russ. So we had a big report out a couple of weeks back, and I've dug in deep into what's been going on there. So what's interesting here is that if we look at the younger generation across Britain, so people we class as Gen Z, so they're the kind of the latest cohort of people. They've been tracking people now since the 1940s, looking at the health of people who are born more, say, Kelvin's era versus the younger era. And what we're finding is that people who are born younger now, they're in far worse health. And you normally find that over time, people obviously get healthier, but in far worse health when you consider, say, the age of what they were versus the previous generations. And it's no surprise when you think now, you had proper cooking back in the 50s, the 60s and 70s. When I was younger, I grew up in the 1980s. People were out, I was out on the streets kicking footballs against walls, running around, getting exercise. What do kids do now? They're just indoors doing absolutely nothing. So what we're finding, which is quite, I suppose, a problem for the NHS and a problem for society, is this screen time for young children is having a massive impact on society. And we're seeing that obviously with the benefit figures, the number of younger people who come out of school straight into benefits, cost of the taxpayers going up. So I think it's a bit of a wake-up call, this study, because ultimately you cannot have a situation where society is not coming out of school going into work. They're coming out of school going on to benefits. And who's paying for it? The bloody taxpayer.
Yeah. And Jamie, am I right in saying you're Welsh?
I am Welsh, so
can I just suggest something, mate? That you should have kicked that ball around a little bit more. Wales might have actually made it into the World Cup.
Well, yeah, I think if we might get Edward Hughes to play up front for us, I think, because he's the only one who seems to be scoring at the moment.
Let's turn our attention to Makerfield. I know you're a data guy, right? So you're described here on my running list as the man with the data behind the headlines, which I love. I love a bit of data, because data is kind of fact. I know there's such a thing as kind of lies, damn lies, and statistics. I get all that, but in the context of Makerfield, which obviously is an election that is only a week away now, where I think that we're going to see an outcome that is potentially a revelation. It could be somehow a validation of what Labour are doing in terms of their tenure over the country. And frankly, if you vote for Andy Burnham, then that's what you're doing. You're validating exactly what is happening in Britain right now, whether it be economically, whether it be from a crime or an immigration perspective. And as I said earlier on, I think what's happening in Belfast and elsewhere, Henry Novak, Stephen Ogilvie, might have an impact on how people feel about voting for Labour. But there's something I want to reconcile, you might be able to help me with, genuinely. So in the local elections on May the 7th, in Makerfield, I think just about every council ward was won by Reform. So Reform swept the board pretty much. Yet it seems that the polls are saying that Reform is slightly behind Labour when it comes to the polling for this parliamentary by-election. Why?
Yeah, so I suppose what's driving this one, Russell, is you can take a snapshot of Wales as well, is that most people are really fed up with Keir Starmer. So when people went to the polls, they're fed up with the Labour government. I think if you take the Welsh election that we've recently had, where obviously Labour have run and won nearly every election in Wales for the last 100 years, only I think 34% of people who voted Labour at the last Welsh elections remain with them. And most of that, there's a little bit of kind of people fed up with the Welsh Labour Party themselves, but many people are just fed up with Keir Starmer. So when you had the local elections across England, it kind of mirrored what we saw in Wales. But the difference Wales has and Scotland has versus England is they've obviously got the Nationalist Party up in Scotland and in Wales, which sucked in quite a bit of the Labour vote. So when you take Makerfield, obviously the Labour Party now are pitching this as a last chance saloon to get rid of Keir Starmer. And so Andy Burnham is trying to get that galvanised. So Reform did well by saying, obviously, vote Reform, get Starmer out. That's not going to work in Makerfield so much because obviously it's vote Burnham, get Starmer out. So that doesn't work in terms of the tagline.
Yeah.
So, and he's a local, he's obviously not specifically from the area. The Reform candidate's more local to the area. But obviously Burnham's got that profile in the Northwest from Greater Manchester, which means that, you know, he's more likely to get the votes that some of the local councillors that they never heard of would have got. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Well, Jamie, let's just show a clip of the House of Commons. I think it was yesterday. Richard Tice, again, he's our kind of favourite of the day, for no other reason that he's been very vocal the last 24, 48 hours. This is the question he was asking of Keir Starmer in the House of Commons yesterday, to your point.
We all condemn, of course, the appalling violence in Belfast last night after the horrific attack on Monday. But this Prime Minister is in denial of the rising despair across the country over his failure to stop the boats and related criminality, his failure to recognise two-tier policing, his failures over Mandelson, his failures over the scourge of anti-Semitism. He's lost the confidence of the country, his own trade union members and his own very quiet backbenchers, Mr. Speaker. When will he do the right thing and when will this Prime Minister resign?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, last week...
By the way, that was utterly fantastic, wasn't it?
Yes.
By the way, I'd never seen that clip before.
I know, it was yesterday.
Yeah, no, well, fantastic. But how much of a show did that get anywhere?
Yeah. No, because Starmer then just seeks to shut him down. I did a clip yesterday. Charlotte asked me to do a kind of roundup of PMQs, which Mike normally does. So I did it kind of walking through Liverpool Street Station. And I said that the whole thing was just whataboutery.
Can I ask you this? When you walk through Liverpool Street Station, and of course you're an Essex county councillor now, do you get acknowledged?
I get acknowledged from what I've done on Talking GB News, but I get acknowledged a lot now from being on this. Not this week necessarily, but as a guest.
Yeah, fine.
So less so as a politician. No one was to recognise a politician or say hello. But from my media endeavours, I get recognised a lot. I still find it incredibly humbling and a bit embarrassing, to be honest. But,
okay, no, there aren't any creditors who say to you, while you're at it, by the way, if you could pay that £83 plumbing bill, that would be helpful.
Can I have some money back for the wheel that I damaged falling down a pothole that Essex County Council with the previous administration perhaps hadn't fixed. Right, sorry, let's go back to Jamie. Makerfield. So I guess in light of what Richard Tice said there in terms of all the reasons that Keir Starmer should resign, I mean, that probably doesn't help reform, to your point, does it? Because you'd vote reform to get rid of Starmer, to your point. But actually, if you vote Burnham, you're going to get a replacement Prime Minister. So it does put reform in a bit of a difficult position, apart from the fact that obviously the reform narrative is vote for the local guy that isn't using the population of Makerfield for his own political endeavours.
Yeah, but I think there's a long-term game. And just on that Richard Tice clip, I think you're spot on there. I did see a clip that you did at the station. You know, they call it Prime Minister's Questions. I think he came back, didn't give any answer. He just started having a go at Richard Tice, I think, as part of his answer. So you never get any answers from Keir Starmer. But if you play the long-term game, so if you think, okay, I think the problem you go with Andy Burnham, if he's the answer, you've got to ask what's the bloody question that we're trying to solve if Andy Burnham is the answer for the country. But if Andy Burnham was to get in, put a bit of challenge into Keir Starmer and get in, we know that Andy Burnham's more left. And so he's going to try and appeal to the left that are going to the Green Party. And where Richard Tice is kind of right there in terms of attacking Keir Starmer, Starmer's trying to appeal to all people at the moment. So he's trying to appeal to people on the left. Some of the Labour voters have gone to Reform. He's trying to appeal to them. But many of those Labour voters who went to Reform, they're in Wales, they're in what you call the Red Wall. They're people who were just never going to vote Tories because Margaret Thatcher closed all the mines. So they were never going to go to the Tories, but they're happily going to go to Reform. So if Burnham was to get in, if you think of the long-term game to the next general election, the more he shifts to the left, he may pull some of those Green voters back, but he might think, well, actually, this is much worse. This socialism, that more taxes, more things going on, net zero possibly. Reform's vote might even go up more with Andy Burnham in charge, but the Labour will get some of their vote back from the Green Party.
But Jamie, it will do. So I think the Andy Burnham gamble is that he will be more popular than Keir Starmer. I mean, honestly, I think a rattlesnake and a lucky dip is more popular than Keir Starmer right now. So he will be more popular than Keir Starmer in the short term, which is why he might actually call a general election, knowing that as he lurches even further to the left...
No, let me stop you.
Kelvin's not going to agree.
No,
he's taking his headphones off. He's on one.
That is never, ever going to happen. Why should he imperil right?
To give himself 5 years.
Yeah, he gives it. No, he's not got 5 years. He guaranteed 3.
Yep.
And he's saying, I tell you what, I'm going to roll the dice. You ready? Whoa! What? Oh, hold on a second. It's 2 1s. Boom! I've lost my money. No, he's never ever going to do that. He's going to sit there and actually he's going to turn out to be at least as crappy as the current incumbent.
No, he's going to be worse,
Right?
Kelvin.
And
He
actually-
believes in an even more left-leaning politics.
I don't think he does. He don't believe in anything. Every time he's sitting there, somebody's going to come in and say, but by the way, have you seen the defence review? Yeah. If we don't spend 48 billion quid, we're going to end up with a pea shooter and blowing it over a border between Poland and Russia. And that'll be it. Well, how are we going to afford that? We can't. Okay, well, let's do it. He will have no idea whatsoever. When you go into power, whether you're running an estate agent in Essex, or you're running the country, or you're running Unilever, you've got to have a firm view. He doesn't believe anything.
I know, but Kelvin, you're being far too rational. Because this isn't you and me voting. I mean, if we were voting in Makerfield, it would be a very, very different outcome. I'm sure I speak for Jamie as well. But this is the irrational Labour voter. Many public sector individuals, many that are looking forward to their next 10% pay rise as a nurse or a train driver or whatever.
Do you know what? What I can't understand is this. Why doesn't Badenoch simply say, I tell you what I'm going to do, when I come to power, I'm going to make council tenants pay a minimum of 50% of what the private local renters pay, right? I'm going to make them pay that. We are freezing all pensions for 3 years. We're going to cut benefits. This is what we're going to do, right? And actually say, if you don't want it, don't effing vote for me. This is what we're doing. We're going bust. Somebody has to do it.
And therein lies.
And I think they do just fine. They couldn't do worse. How could the Tories do worse than that? They're only going to get 2% next Thursday.
I'm going to be responsible for Kelvin Mackenzie having a stroke here, I think.
Hold on.
Any second.
He's gone early.
On the floor.
He's gone early. Give me the defibrillator.
Mike Graham is going to be in his swimming pool in Cyprus, absolutely spitting feathers. What are you doing to my show? He's going to say.
Really.
Flash up the picture of Mike in a
killing
swimming
the
pool
guests.
right now. But also that, I think, wasn't that the, there he is, there's Mike Graham, relaxed until about 30 seconds ago.
Oh my God.
Now
Well,
he
it's a
won't
good
be.
job we're not showing the rest of him. Now, that would affect the audience, wouldn't it?
Kelvin, is that the, was that what I've just seen was the party political broadcast on behalf of the new Kelvin Mackenzie political party? Kelvin Mackenzie for Prime Minister, what do you think, Jamie?
Oh, no, it just come up on my phone. It looks like you've taken a hard fall. Hey! And by the way, a load of socialists have given it a tick.
Do it again. Jamie, I'm going to need to take a breather after that. Over to you.
Yeah, no, I think Kelvin's spot on there. I think we all need to get Kelvin in as perhaps the new Kelvin Mackenzie party. Mike Graham as Chancellor, Kelvin as Prime Minister. You can be the Defence Secretary, Russ. I'll do the economy, and we'll sort the country out. But I think my big question, I suppose, of the day is for Pooch and for Charlotte. Isn't it? Looking at the weather, it's absolutely hammering down here in Wales, and I'm looking at the figures on the small boats. So we've had no crossings for the last 7 days. And
We don't get any crossings to Wales anyway, Jamie, do you?
Hey, that's the idea. We've cracked it.
Here he goes again.
Like in Vietnam, that they started, and they do it in the Middle East as well. They get the clouds. They put that chemical into the clouds, and it then rains.
Yes, cloud seeding.
We have geopolitical, the channel. We get it bloody raining all the time through the chemical. That way, nobody can come over.
Yeah, or we could just put some Navy frigates in the channel instead.
Well, that's the easy answer. I am looking for the technological answer, right? Let's get this right so that your viewers have seen it here first. We start geopolitically cutting out the channel, and we have huge rainfalls thanks to the fact that clouds are being attacked through chemicals. It's done in the Middle East right now, and I think it's actually done elsewhere, right? And so, boom, it's always raining there. Therefore, the old migrants say, we are not going to bother, mate. It's raining. The next thing that happened is that they'll be given Macs, won't they? Do you know what I mean? It'll be like, there'll be big stores. You know where there's like drink stores in Calais?
Get me out of here. Calais.
Right, you know,
Get me out of here.
there's drink stores in Calais. There'll now be Macintosh stores, right? Everybody being given, all the migrants being given Macintoshes. Anyway, that's my solution. If you've got better solutions, a super chat for 40 quid will help you. And it'll bloody help Mike Graham as he's sitting in his 5-star luxury villa, not giving a stuff about what's happening back here.
Jamie, I've already done one apology today. I'm so sorry, mate. I mean, you look like you were just about to bloody cry there. Are we going to start a crowdfunding campaign so that we can initiate Kelvin Mackenzie's cloud seeding initiative to stop migrants coming over from Calais to Dover in boats?
No, I think it's a spot on idea from Calvin. The only problem you got is if Starmer tries doing it, he gets everything so wrong in this country. He'll send the bloody planes up and he'll flood London, and literally the River Thames will come up. And your studio today will be literally underwater. That's the problem with the idea, I think. But no, I think so. Just to finish off, guys, I think the important thing is Mike Graham. I think what we probably end up doing with Charlotte and Pooch Russ is probably better off to take the studio, because I know he's building a new studio. Take the studio down to the Mediterranean. I've said this. We should all go there and have the next live show down in Spain or somewhere down there, I think. Where
do you know what a cracking idea? A bit like, what was that film, Cocoon? Do you remember, where all the old people in the old people...
Do you mind? We don't want any bloody old people.
They all kind of got together and ended up being kind of revitalised into kind of younger versions of themselves. We could do that from a broadcasting point of view. I can't think of anything better, actually, than an OAP's club for all of us in La Manga or something, where we come to you live every day, all day, from the sunny beaches of La Manga.
That will be great. What with Mike, with the old...
in the pool. Let's show Mike in the pool again.
Mike, right, with the pouring out the rosé, getting increasingly hammered, right, and eventually he even gets sacked. He even gets sacked from his own show.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
There is no show that Mike Graham hasn't been thrown out of. Do you know that?
Or you.
That is true, actually. I've been fired from everywhere. Right, I've been fired. Right, now it's hard to be fired from this lot.
Guys,
right? Daily Mail, Daily Telegraph. I got hired by the Telegraph. Right. It was only announced I'd been hired before I got fired. What about that?
The comments are flying in. I want whatever Kelvin Mackenzie is eating for breakfast. Kelvin's show next week should be interesting. If he survives, if he doesn't have a stroke before then. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sorry, actually. This has been an absolute blast. What a laugh. And actually, in a week, I mean, we're kind of day 4 of this week, where it's been also very morbid and sombre because of Sudanese people coming over here to behead us. Kelvin and Jamie, thank you very much indeed for some very fun, light-heartedness. And audience, I hope you've enjoyed this. I don't know what the numbers are doing. We're probably on 1 million viewers, I think. Lots and lots of comments. Keep the comments coming in. Got to have fun, right?
Yeah, you've got to have fun. You've got to interspersed between the enormously serious issues, which have really... So my prediction for the future is that we will now cover migrant-related crime in a completely different way. Previously, you sometimes see like a paragraph or something of a really serious nature involving rape or something at some rather major court, right? I think that moment has changed. I think now all crime related to migration will be covered in a proper way. And I wonder what will happen to the country. I hope to God we don't have a hot summer for that basis, because I hate
because that encourages unrest.
It seems to, and I'd also like an undertaking from the super right in our country to say, actually, we're going to allow ordinary, peaceful voters to come out on the street, and I guarantee to you that there will be no mask there. We will not be attacking the police. We will not be setting fire to anything. We want to make it look like a political view rather than a violent view. And if we do that, we will get change. If you just rely on torching people's houses, you won't get change. The narrative changes. The narrative becomes about the fire, and then we lose the argument. Please tell whoever your representative is, even if they are of a difficult variety, tell them, don't do it. You're not doing it for me.
Jamie, before one of us either has a heart attack or gets arrested, get me out of this. No, Jamie, just do you think Britain is too far gone?
Well, I don't think so. I think we can fix the country. I totally agree with what Kelvin's saying. If we have a really hot summer, you're just going to see more and more of those boats coming over. And on a more serious point on that, I think the big challenge you've got is that the facts are there. Most people, we had that politician, didn't we, from the county, I think Darren from the government, saying that most people were coming over were women and young children, but they're not. They are young men. We have no idea who they are. And I've always said on this that got these small boats coming over. If you even just have one or two, a marginal minority of them who go on to commit crime, go on to commit heinous crime, like could be rapes, it could be murders, that's one or two too many. And we got to remember, what's the role of the Home Office in all of this? If you look at the annual report, they say the role of the Home Office is to protect British people, to protect the border, and they cannot do that. I think Kelvin's cloud seeding idea is probably one of the more innovative ones.
Well, do you know what it is, Jamie? It's better than the stupid idea which is smashing gangs and arresting people with lilos in wherever that purport to be people traffickers.
Whatever happened to one in, one out? Whatever happened to one in? No, I tell you what, we should have a big plaque. Right, one in, one out, died.
Can we just show, before Kelvin, this is the Kelvin Mackenzie show's coming.
Yeah, it's on its way.
You'll be forgiven for thinking it's now. Can you play me some clips, please? Serious face, for context, this is what happened again on the streets of Northern Ireland last night.
This is Frontline reporting from the police line. I'm in front of all the protesters, and the riot police are out of the vans in between them, and we are heading down. We're being shouted down now, being told to get down, get down. So we're going to head down here now to safety, but yeah, it doesn't feel that safe around the police either, let me tell you, especially not when you're on this side. But we're walking down now. Police are beginning to move back up. You can hear them revving their engines. There's a house on fire over in that direction where you can see the smoke. Fire engines have just pulled up, and we are heading down this way. So this is Christian reporting for Watchman, and the police have just pushed right up the road when a van was set on fire, petrol bombed, and we're heading up the road now. It's carnage up the road, to be fair, where I'm walking, but yeah, it's all going on here.
A big friend of the show, Christian Drogan there, of course, who we had on the show yesterday. That guy is rather brave and bold, it's fair to say. Christian, aka Watchman, will get anyone everywhere to show on social media the truth. You know, those videos that Labour politicians would like us to ban, would like you not to see, those representations of the truth that are a bit too true for convenience, really. Kelvin's leaving us now. The ambulance is outside. Kelvin, thank you very much indeed for this morning.
Can I make a point about that guy? Yeah. So Nottingham Trent University,
quickly, because we've got to get to Jamie, then I've got to get into another guest.
Correctly, I've just canned 2 journalism courses, right? Because the truth about the matter is that journalism is like plumbing and bricklaying. It's something you learn on the job. So that guy there will not have a journalism degree. He may not have a degree, may not have anything, but he does know what news looks like when it's coming at him. So congratulations to him for bringing a really graphic feel.
No, he's and brilliant, great friend of the show. He'll be on time and time again. Jamie, thanks for joining me. And will you ever come back?
Well, I'm on every week, so hopefully it all depends if Mike's coming back, I suppose. That's a big question.
Well, you need him back, sorry. Or if Kelvin's here again.
Yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back.
Jamie, thank you very much indeed. I'm sorry that was such a whirlwind of a 20 or 30 minute segment, but I had fun. Hopefully you did. Hopefully the audience did too.
Get Jamie away.
We are literally going to put a straitjacket on Kelvin Mackenzie and wheel him out on a trolley into the ambulance that is waiting outside. Right. Kelvin, I love you to bits. Jamie, I love you too.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about the Welsh jibe, about the football, but you are rubbish at football in Wales. Ever so sorry. Who else can we talk to now? Mike Fairclough. Got to talk to Mike Fairclough, who joins me now. Educator, author and commentator. Mike, you've been in a bit of trouble, haven't you, over the years?
Better go. Nice to see you. So I was a headmaster of quite a well-known school for about 19 years. and it was quite well known because I taught the kids to shoot 410 shotguns on a big farmland that we had. And,
sorry, hang on. You took kids out and taught them to shoot guns?
Yeah, and skin rabbits, pluck pigeons, light fires, cook over an open fire. It was all about building grit and resilience and character building. And this was kind of before the sort of massive woke capture of the education system. And then it was interesting because during the COVID era, I was quite well known. I was very well known actually, and praised by the education sector and by Ofsted and everything.
Right, so no criticism at that time. So and parents were good with it.
Yeah. Everyone was cool with it, no problem at all. And then during the COVID era, I was the only head teacher or school principal to publicly oppose the COVID vaccine rollout to children. So at the time there were 43,500 head teachers and school principals in the United Kingdom, and I was the only one to publicly speak out. And at the time, if you criticised anything regarding the COVID vaccine, you were regarded as an extremist. In fact, I was reported to the counter-extremism people and to prevent and all sorts of things. So, I went from like the golden boy of the education sector to this sort of pariah. But interestingly, I'd already been an author during my time as an educator. I'd written 3 books. I've now written nearly 10. And all it did was it made me kind of more vocal, really. So I've since written lots and lots of books about free speech. And particularly, I mean, there was one actually about called Cancel This, which I wrote at the middle of last year, which was about cancel culture. And also just being really proud of being British and of our heritage and of our culture, of being white, of our flag and all the rest of it. And this is the interesting bit, and this is why I'm talking to you today. I'm married to a dark-skinned Punjabi Indian woman. She came to in the UK in 1973. Her family, actually, I think you might know some members of her family because Robert Whitten is a reform counsellor.
Yeah.
Do you know him? Yeah,
I know of him. Don't know him, but know of him.
So he's my brother-in-law. He's married to my wife's sister. Brilliant family, hardworking family, sort of lawyers and architects and doctors and all that kind of thing. The usual kind of Sikh community. They're very, very hardworking people. Yeah. And what happened after the brutal murder of Henry Nowak? I know it's pronounced Nowak because of his Polish origins, even though it's Nowak. Yeah. I didn't know that until today. By that psychopath who did not and does not represent the Sikh community, despite his appearance. There was a considerable amount of disinformation spread about the Sikh community and lots of things which were left out from about the attack and the verdict. Now, one of the things was about the kirpan, which is generally speaking a small, curved, generally blunt, concealed ceremonial artifact, which is one of the 5 Ks. That was not used in that murder. Okay, what that psychopath used was an illegal weapon which Sikhs do not have any right to use in any way, shape, or form. The other thing is that there's been this idea that somehow the Sikhs can use a kirpan in self-defense. No, they can't. In UK law, they are not permitted to use anything as an offensive weapon or in defense. And yet all of these things have been quite sort of quiet. But one of the key things which I thought was really interesting, and the reason I'm saying this is because when I was, I've been sort of praising the Sikh community for calling out the killer and for standing with the protesters in Southampton when there was a protest about the 2-tier policing, which is what this is really about. It's about anti-white racism within the system, which is endemic, and we can talk about that in a minute. the Sikhs from the Gurdwara in Southampton were out shaking hands with protesters. They then had an event at the Gurdwara for in memory of Henry. The same thing happened with the Southall Gurdwara, who have been amazing, and the various federations such as the Sikh Federation have come out and condemned the killing. They're unlike some other groups. They when something happens, they don't try and hide it. They've come out and said that we condemn this, but this guy does not represent our community.
But Mike, can I just say, so hang on, but Digba was born in Britain. He was a British individual. Yeah. He did not come over on a boat. He is not from the Muslim community. Sikhs and Muslims are definitely not the same thing. Sikhs are from India. Muslims are predominantly from Pakistan and elsewhere in that part of the world. I mean, I have to say, I haven't heard the kind of lambasting, the pillorying of the Sikh community, perhaps as you have, I guess, because you're married to
because
a Sikh.
I've supported them. So I've been told that my wife should return to India. She was actually born in Kenya.
Told by who? On social media commentary?
Social media. And that I should go to India, my children should go to India. And it's interesting because Tommy Robinson, whatever anyone thinks about Tommy Robinson, he gave a very, very, very good video. He released a great video about the Sikh community because he also saw this exact same thing happening, where there were people who were essentially. So he was saying, look, the Sikh community are hardworking. They are freedom fighters. They've stood with the patriots during Unite the Kingdom rallies, etc. They're pro-free speech. I know from the community, the members that I know, they're very anti-woke, very, they're generally right-leaning. We've got reform candidates, etc., who are Sikhs as well. But people who are genuinely racist just kind of lump everyone into the same thing.
No, that's exactly the thing. But yeah, without any intelligence, those that are racist see everybody with brown or black skin as the same. Which is the definition of racism. But Mike, Digba didn't do what he did because he was a Sikh. He did what he did because he's a psychopath.
I know, but because people don't understand the facts, some people are now saying all Sikhs need to be chucked out of the country, and this is something that has to be addressed. And there's been an increase in attacks on the Sikh community as well.
Mike, what sorts of people? What sort of people are saying that? Tell me. Who are they?
It's interesting. So it's online. We've also had the Sikh Federation saying that there's been an increase in racial attacks on their people as well. And it feels to me, what I think has happened is that people have fallen into a trap, which is a deliberate one. So because of mass uncontrolled illegal immigration, there's been, which I think is a deliberate thing. In fact, I think you can try. I write about this in the book Cancel This, and there's another very, very good book coming out by Bernie Spofforth, who I know Mike Graham.
She messaged me the other day to ask if I want a copy, and I said yes, only if you sign it.
Well, I was the editor on that book. I've read it twice, and it's absolutely incredible. And she will tell you, she examines the whole thing of how we got here, because it's not just Labour being useless and having open borders. This is a global issue in the West. It's a deliberate one. The United Nations are very much part of it, because in 2015, the Conservative government signed up to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And again, I've written about this, but Bernie's done it in a much better way. Her book comes out on the 25th of June. And I really recommend people read that, because it looks at all of these different narratives and how they've been used to weaponize. They've been weaponized.
And Mike, can I ask, as we're talking about books and messaging, and I guess the question then of free speech, we talked earlier on in the show about the fact that there are certain members of the front bench Labour government that want to restrict what we see, hear and know on social media in order to protect us and to ensure community compliance, and so that there is not unrest that develops as a consequence of the attacks on Stephen Ogilvie, and I guess the same would apply to Henry Novak and Southport and so on. Do you think we get to a stage where not only do the Labour Party seek to censor social media by way of X in particular, because it's owned by Elon Musk. But also, does that then start to extend to books? Do we end up with the whole kind of Nazi book burning type of situation in this country?
That will happen. So bearing in mind when we talk, it's not just Labour. So I've spoken to Mike about this. I mean, so we have a different view regarding the term used, but I call it the deep state. It could be like the civil service. No matter who gets in, the same nonsense basically still happens, right? Whoever you vote for, that generally seems to be the case, and it's the same, in all different countries across the world. It seems like we have this sort of permanent sort of hidden government, let's call it the civil service for the sake of argument, but it's underpinned by various agendas such as the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which the United Nations crafted and which we're signed up to. But basically, what we saw during the COVID era was the use of something called psychological operations, PSYOPs, things which are used to steer public opinion.
The nudge unit.
Debate.
You mean the nudge unit?
Yes, exactly, the nudge unit. And within the COVID era, we also had the counter disinformation unit, the rapid response unit, MI5, MI6 working in liaison with the rapid response unit. We had the 77th Brigade, all of these groups still.
Which was Army Intelligence, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they were previously looking at sort of, your kind of traditional terrorists like ISIS, etc. And then suddenly they're all looking at the dissidents. And I was on the list for a while as well with the counter disinformation unit, and many of my sort of colleagues were as well within the sort of freedom movement. But we're seeing the same thing happening again. Now, I can't prove that it's a psyop, but I think that what they want is unrest. So it's like that the beheading, which everyone should have been able to have access to be able to the attempted beheading in Ireland, and to see the appalling mess that's being created by mass uncontrolled illegal immigration. There should be a strong response to that, and it should be that anyone who's an illegal immigrant should be sent back to where they've come from, and we should stop it now. We should. It's really obvious. Now,
do you subscribe, Mike?
The response was protest. But the fact that it went violent is what they want, because if you get social unrest, and it's the same with the stuff with after the Henry Novak murder, by kind of creating a kind of a sort of environment where suddenly everyone who's brown or black or whatever, needs to quote unquote go home or whatever, then you fall into a trap.
And who is it? Steve Laws, I think, is one of the so-called political commentators on the far right, is he? It seems so, that has called for the deportation of all Sikhs. What a stupid and outrageous thing to say.
Yeah, of course it is. And it's falling into a massive trap. So what will then happen is they'll say, and this is why I mentioned Tommy Robinson, because he's regarded as a symbol of the far right. And yet he has very, very, very clearly, several times recently, said, you should not be targeting your anger at the Sikh community. They are absolutely brilliant. They stand with us. They're hardworking. They're very much part of our history. They've been here for 160 years, fought in both world wars, 150,000 in World War One, 350,000 in World War Two, etc., etc., etc. And yet you don't see the people who claim to want harmony and peace actually showing that. So I think if anyone was serious about there being harmony within communities, they should have the joint statements from Tommy Robinson and also from Owen Jones, who, I disagree with him on absolutely everything, apart from the fact that he has said recently, oh, this is appalling that some of the anti-Sikh racism that has come out, and just show that actually on those kind of two, let's call them extreme ends, those people are in agreement.
They're unified.
And let's calm this down, because otherwise all we're going to do is we're going to fall into this deep state trap of where they say, well, the only way we can deal with this is to be able to censor the internet and make sure
but
that
Mike,
we don't.
It is a trap. It's a trap that is being set, and because what our political masters want, of course, is us to be having conversations about how it's Sikhs or, how it's the far right or it's Elon Musk or it's Nigel Farage that are causing the problems, rather than actually getting to the nub of the problem itself. And with regard to your kind of comments about racism, what we need to account for is the fact that racists are thick. That's the long and short of it. Mike, I'd love to talk to you all day long. The audience, as you can probably see from the comments, would love you to talk all day long. You're fantastic, very well reasoned. And look, best wishes to your wife and to her family. I hope that this whole thing blows over and that some sanity is restored to Britain in many, many respects. Mike Faircroft, thank you very much indeed. Talking of sanity, shall we hear something from Ed Hughes, who is the voice of such sane things?
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. Violence has erupted in Belfast following a knife attack that seriously injured a man. Police deployed water cannons amid a second night of disorder, with crowds throwing bricks and bottles. The victim's family has appealed for calm, while officials warn of destabilising anti-immigrant unrest. In politics, Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces pressure over defence spending and leadership questions, with clashes at PMQs and debates on immigration, national security and tech firms' role in protecting children from explicit images. 2 migrants were jailed under new small boats laws, and economic forecasts show slower UK growth amid global pressures. Other stories include updates on the Sarah Sharif case and calls for calm in Northern Ireland. Tensions remain high as authorities monitor the situation closely. Laters, tigers.
Oh, we're going to a promo, aren't we?
Yeah, but 1 minute.
Do you want me to do the promo? I'm just pouring myself a glass of water. It's been a long show. Got to calm myself down over the whole kind of Kelvin Mackenzie thing. Wasn't that fun? I know Kelvin Mackenzie's passionate and gets very, very animated. I've never seen him quite as passionate and as animated as that. I did want to get the best out of Kelvin Mackenzie. I think we got the best out of Kelvin Mackenzie in terms of his forthright nature and opinion, but I do hope he's okay. I'm going to ring him later and make sure after a good lie down that he is okay and fit to come back sometime soon. He is literally, I know the word legend is thrown around. We might have another legend on in the studio a bit later on actually, but the word legend is thrown around rather a lot. But Kelvin Mackenzie, when it comes to media, newspapers and political and social commentary, is definitely one of those L-word people, I think. That's for sure. Are we doing this promo or not? I'm being let down by my gallery here. This is, I'm going to be a diva, because I've done this show for 4 days now. Can I be a diva? Am I allowed to be a diva? Scarlett's still here, by the way. So, mini pooch. Why don't you pop your head round and say hello, Scarlett? Come on, come on, come on. Come on, Scarlett. Come here, come on. No, she's shy, she's shy. So just like a dad, she wants to be behind the camera, not in front of the camera, but like us, show us. But anyway, Scarlett is helping Alina here and Charlotte and Pooch hold this attempt at a show together. So far, so good. We've had a paper review by Benjamin Elks. That was fairly sensible. Kelvin Mackenzie, who was supposed to be on for 20 minutes, stayed for about an hour and a half and completely disrupted the show. Chris Rose was completely and utterly sensible, as he always is, as a Conservative commentator. Lee Harris, very, very similarly. And, of course, Jamie Jenkins, who's kind of the straight-laced data guy that got caught up in the whole Kelvin Mackenzie flurry and fracas. I do hope Jamie Jenkins comes back and hasn't been put off. I think I'm in so much trouble when Mike gets back. I think he's going to ring me on Monday afternoon when he sees all the comments that have come in and so on, probably tell me off for, yes, kind of ripping up his show and throwing it on the floor like I did the Daily Mirror yesterday. Anyway, we'll see. Right, what are we doing next, Alina? Am I just going to keep waffling? We've got a promo. Here it is.
Hi there, Mark Littlewood here, in Mike Graham's seat. But as of Monday the 15th of June, I'm going to be in a different seat for UK Live, giving you everything you need to know about the World Cup. Is it finally coming home after 60 years? I'll be broadcasting from the beautiful town of Calador in Mallorca, which has vast numbers of sports bars for me to watch every second of every single match. We're going to have guests, chats, and don't worry if you don't really understand football or if you're not interested in it. This is going to be a sideways take on the biggest sporting tournament that mankind has ever seen. We'll never be offside, but you might sometimes see me bombing down the right wing. We'll be looking at what's happened in the previous night's games, what's going to happen in that evening's games, and we're going to be profiling as many of the countries as we can. There's 48 of them in this year's World Cup. What you need to know about not just France and Argentina and Spain, but Curacao, Haiti, the Cape Verde Islands, the long shot minnows. Be there from noon weekdays on UK Live, joining me for a World Cupper. See you then.
Hi, yes, Robert, a little glitch in the system. Mark Littlewood there, his new show starting very soon, World Cup related, which apparently is some football thing that's going on. I don't know, it goes over my head, to be honest. However, as I think I said yesterday, when it comes to watching football stuff, which I never, ever, ever do, I will be watching the Mark Littlewood show, not just because it comes after my show next week, but because actually I think Mark Littlewood will add a difference to football speak. I think it will be slightly political, which I'm sure you will like, hence you're watching this right now, and comedic. That will be full of banter. It will be fun. I won't be a guest because I don't know anything about football at all, apart from what a waste of money it seems to be. What's the old joke? How do you become a millionaire? Start off as a billionaire and then buy a football club. Ask David Sullivan. Okay, Sasha Lord is my next guest. Sasha, welcome.
Good morning.
You a football fan?
I am actually. I'm a Manchester United fan.
Okay, you must live miles away from Manchester then.
Very, very good. Yeah. Actually,
See, I know enough. I know enough
I'm
to
one
kind of take the mick.
ones. I live in Manchester. It's very rare, but
You should be a City supporter.
By Cockney accent. Sorry?
You should be a City supporter, not a United fan.
No.
Okay,
no.
let's move on because I'm now completely out of my depth on football speak. Let's talk about Makerfield and your mate Andy Burnham. He is your mate, isn't he?
He is. Yes, good friend.
Good friend. Okay, is he going to win?
Well, I mean, he's not taking anything at all for granted. He's been grafting hard over the last month. It's a week today until polling day, so he's got another week to go. But yeah, he's knocking on every single door. I mean, I have to say it's fascinating to watch. There's a real science to it. It's not just knocking on doors. It's understanding the different demographics and people's different views and stuff. But yeah, he's certainly putting the hours in. I'm impressed.
So he's got a few more days to do some more U-turns then, Sasha.
Yeah, so here we go. Yeah, no. Do you know what? I'll be completely honest. So I was a Labour Party donor, which I think your viewers know. And actually, I was at the manifesto launch in July 2024 when Rachel Reeves stood there and told everyone she was the Chancellor of Business and Growth. And it couldn't have been further from
You're going to say, how's that going? How's that going, Sasha?
Well, yeah, I mean, since she became Chancellor, she increased national insurance immediately. She increased business rates. An average pub now is paying 76% more. She's cost my industry 120,000 jobs. And when you dig down into that, the vast majority of those jobs are for 18 to 24-year-olds who would probably have a job in a pub or a restaurant to get them through college or uni. Those jobs have gone. They have decimated it. And I took their word on it and I got it wrong. What I can say about Andy Burnham is I worked with him very, very closely for 7 years. And he does do what he says he's going to do. And I'll give you a perfect example. So he said to me, at the very outset in 2018, how can I, as in Andy, improve nighttime economy in Greater Manchester? And I said to him, well, it's ridiculous because we call ourselves the 24-hour party city, 24-hour party people, but actually our buses and our trams stop at 11 o'clock. So how is that possible? And it took a few years, but he brought buses back under public control. And what he did with that, he thought I was talking about people going out clubbing till 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And I was to an extent, but more importantly for me were the people who were working and finishing at 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. They were getting penalised because there was no public transport, so they'd have to pay for an expensive taxi to get home. So we've now got the night buses, and not only have we got them, he's capped them at £2, which has made a huge difference.
And how's he paid for that, Sasha? Because that subsidy is expensive, isn't it?
Well, the mayoral press of it, has helped fund that, but it is the right thing to do. And
well, hang on, you mean the precept? So you mean he's taxing people to subsidise buses? Isn't that robbing Peter to pay Paul?
Well, it's a minor amount that he's actually put on there, but what he's actually done is, everybody listening to this will know on a night out or staff going home, particularly for women and girls, safety is number one. And actually, by having the buses there capped at £2, more people now are going on those, and it's a much, much safer system to get people back.
Let's talk about the pub thing. I know the hospitality industry is close to your heart. I know that. And of course, Andy Burnham has made an announcement with regards to what he would do in relation to business rates and pubs. Just talk us through that.
Well, he has. He said that he would bring down business rates by a further 20%. And what he's doing actually is what the Chancellor engaged with my industry and told my industry she would do, but didn't. She told my industry that she would go for the big warehouses like the DHLs and the Amazons, the online companies, and get them to pay a bit more in terms of business rates. And by doing that, she'd be able to lower the business rates of small independent businesses like pubs, like family run cafes, family run restaurants. And she actually did completely the opposite. She did a complete U-turn on that. And actually, hotels are paying 115% more than they were this time last year. It's ridiculous. So he said he's going to bring them down by 20%, but he's gone a step further, actually. And he's talking about those small, tiny businesses like the coffee shops on the streets. He would look at slashing business rates completely.
That's a good question. I'm trying to be balanced here. And I've never met Andy Burnham. He seems a nice fella. But he is a Labour politician. And Labour over the last 2 years have not exactly covered themselves in authenticity, Sasha, with regard to doing what they said they were going to do. Why should we believe that Andy Burnham's any different?
Do you know what? I think you'd probably want me to disagree with you on that, but I'm actually not going to in the slightest. I completely agree with you. Everything they promised my sector they would do, they haven't done. Everything they said they would do behind the scenes with my sector, they haven't done.
But why is Andy Burnham different? Why do we believe Andy Burnham instead of Keir Starmer? They're cut from the same cloth, aren't they?
No, they're actually not completely. And he's already calling out that, the Chancellor's decisions. And all I can say is, look, I've worked with him for 7 years. I know him as a person. He is different. He is one of us. And I think people would find that hard to disagree with. He listens, he works with the sector. What he's done for my sector in Greater Manchester has been phenomenal. And what he's done for Greater Manchester, he only started in 2017. And for my industry now, the Sunday Times has called us the UK's capital of nightlife. We are bouncing. This year alone, we've had MTV Awards Europe. We've had the Brit Awards, first time outside of London, the Mobo Awards. People are choosing to relocate to Greater Manchester. It's fantastic to see. It really is. We're having a moment now that I think in 20 years we'll look back at it and it'll be like, for me, in the late 80s, early 90s, when we were known as Manchester with Factory Records and Stone Roses, Happy Monday, it's going to be that.
The Hacienda, Sasha. Not that I've ever been there. The Hacienda, have I imagined that, or is that some famous club up there?
No, that was the first event I ever put on, was the 4th of July, 1994. And actually, which way is it now? Yeah, if you can see, Factory Records, when the Hacienda closed, I sent someone out to nick that off the Hacienda door, and that's the original logo. So
stolen.
There you go.
Stolen from the Hacienda.
Yeah, if the police knock on my door in the next hour, I'm going to blame you.
No, I think you've probably got rights to it after all that time now. So let's talk in the same vein then about another Labour-controlled area, which is London, under Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan. The nighttime economy there has kind of disintegrated under Sadiq Khan. So there seems to be quite a contrast between London and Manchester in terms of the kind of whole nighttime economy thing.
I would agree with you. I'm not going to disagree. London's having a really tough time, and there's something I'm extremely passionate about. And the Guardian have done a great job on this. Lewis Goodall's done a great job bringing this conversation to the forefront now. When I think about London, I think about, where is the thriving part of London? And I think back to like the swinging 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and it's got to be Soho. You've now got a group of NIMBYs in Soho that call themselves the Soho Society. And they've come out and they have said, in the last 4 weeks, we're going to object to every new license. We're going to object to every new license renewal. We're going to object to every single license extension. Well, I'm not being funny. These people have bought flats, apartments, houses in a busy, thriving, bustling area. And they are now threatening these businesses and people's jobs. And it's wrong. And I spoke to legals last week, and I am going to actually fight every single one of these objections. And yes, the mayor has not done an overwhelmingly good job when it comes out to nighttime economy in London, but he has just been given extra powers now that, so if licenses have been objected to, he can steamroller in and,
Well, he can overrule a local licensing
overrule it,
committee.
yes.
Well, I mean, look, kind of good, but I mean, those licensing committees are sat on by councillors, so of course there's a democratic element to that. So, I'm not sure I applaud that completely. I mean, we all would in the case of some old couple moving into a flat in Soho, then wondering why it's so noisy still at midnight. I mean, go figure. Go and live in the Cotswolds then. Don't buy a flat in Soho. But at the same time, I'm not sure that I trust Sadiq Khan in terms of him having ultimate power over such things to do the right thing. Sasha, we've got to move on. Look, thank you very much indeed. You're quite sensible, despite the fact that you're a Labour person, aren't you?
Thank you. And can I just say, I've watched this show start, and fair play to the whole team and Mike and everyone. It started from scratch. You've now got millions and millions of views. You went against the tide, and it's refreshing to see. It really is. So, congrats to everybody on the camera, but also the team behind, like Charlotte and people like that. It's brilliant to watch.
Mate, thank you. Don't forget Scarlett, because she's here. Mini Pooch.
No,
thank you. I appreciate that, and look, it's nice to hear. I mean, look, we're the media now. I mean, that's what we are. If you look at some of the mainstream media now in terms of their audiences diminishing and diminishing, ours is just going up and up. I mean, somehow 70,000 people are still watching this show, even though I am temporarily hosting it. Quite incredible. I think we're at 25 million views now over the last 6 months on the Mike Graham Show, and about 180,000 subscribers. And of course, we've got UK Live starting next week. Do subscribe to that or resubscribe to it if you subscribed a few days or weeks ago. So UK Live is where it really starts to happen, because it's going to be show after show after show of fun and common sense. I mean, what else could you possibly want? Okay, let's speak to Joan Kennedy now, who also has a kind of pub hospitality background, as I understand it, and is the co-founder of Politics in Pubs. Joan.
Hello, hi, thanks very much for having me on the show.
A pleasure, good to see you.
So my pub background is that I go to pubs.
Oh wow! So you're an alcoholic?
Yes. So I'm not actually involved.
You just drink.
Yeah, but I'm very fond of.
Oh my God! Hang on, Joan. Sorry, is this going to be another Kelvin Mackenzie half hour?
I hope not. No, I'll be.
So your qualification for talking about pubs is that you often get drunk in them.
Well, yeah, and sometimes I don't even get drunk, but yes, I quite like the pubs. Yeah.
No one can say that this is not a very, very interesting and down-to-earth show. What is Politics in Pubs?
So it started in Manchester, where I am, and it was a group of people who were really keen to be able to meet and talk about politics without being shouted down, to listen to each other, and we're also keen to think about how we can be part of the solutions that are so very much needed for the country. So it started 2020 when we came out of lockdown, but it took us a good year to come up with a name and get the format. So we meet once a month, and we usually the format now is that we have someone to start the discussion. Lasts about 2 hours. We meet in pubs, so that's the Politics in Pubs bit. We usually have a room, so we've got 2 meetings this month to give you a flavour. So on Monday, 15th of June, we've got a meeting in London, not organised by me at all, but by a wonderful Mike. So the title is...
hang on, it's not Mike Graham, is it? I mean, hang on. When you say pub and Mike, everyone assumes that you mean it's Mike Graham.
That's where his holiday is, yeah, that's what
because he spends about as much time in a pub as he does here. In fact, probably more time in pubs than he does here. It's not Mike Graham, is it? Although, if you invite him to a pub thing in London, I'm sure he'll probably come.
He has been invited, and we're looking forward to seeing him. But yes, no, it's a different Mike. But the topic will be digital ID, panacea or dystopia, because it has resurfaced the possibility, and in the King's speech, it said the government is going to bring forward a bill to introduce digital ID for accessing public services.
Yeah.
So we'll
it's very sinister indeed, in my opinion. And what's the second event?
So yeah, just to finish that one, sorry, it's in the Warwick, which is London SW1, and it starts at 7 p.m. So that's Monday. So the second one is in Manchester, and we'll be talking about direct democracy, and that's the 23rd of June, a Tuesday, and we start at 7:30. So yeah, sorry to cut you off.
Do I detect a Northern Ireland accent.
Wow, you're very good. Yes, yes. I grew up in Belfast. Yes.
So what do you think about what's going on there now? Sorry to change gears, but I couldn't help but hear the Northern Ireland twang. So I've got to ask you about it as you're a native.
Yes, thanks a lot. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not there, and I've lived here in England since 1977, but my mother is still there, and I've lots of family still there, so I am back a lot. So it is. The protests, I think, are entirely understandable in terms of people wanting to protest. I think the violence is alarming for people who've been used to previous years and frightening. And I don't think we can excuse it, but we can have to understand the reasons for it. And there's probably many, but the concerns about uncontrolled immigration have not been listened to or heeded. And people can see problems, and they've shouted down a lot and said, oh, you're being racist because you're saying that, or you're only spotting something if it's committed by someone who's an immigrant. And people have to sort of have their own lives listened to and understood, and their concerns. So I think the reasons for the protests are understandable. I think I agree with the family. I think protest, it's always best to avoid it merging into violent protest.
And Joan, are you surprised that it seems that Catholic and Protestant, who for decades were divided, were at each other's throats, literally, until the peace process was concluded in 1998. Are you surprised that that sectarianism has been put to one side and that Catholics and Protestants are almost kind of united in their anger against what's happening within Northern Ireland in terms of asylum seekers attempting to behead people?
To be honest, I'm not entirely surprised. I mean, the sectarianism got very, very ugly and nasty from the 60s, and obviously it existed before that. There was discrimination before that, and it was very divisive. It was, I think, deliberately divisive, and in some ways, I think the deliberate encouragement of mass immigration is a similar tool to divide people, and it's finding ways of recognizing, if you're here in this country and you are living and want it to be a decent country to live in for the people that live here and the future generations, call yourself British, you're British, doesn't matter where you were born. But if you are here on some sort of freeloading thing, or you're just using it as a stepping stone to somewhere else, then I don't think you should be in the country. And
well, I don't think. I mean, many asylum seekers seem to be using Greece and then France and then Ireland as the stepping stone to actually end up here in Britain via this back door. 2,300 asylum seekers in Northern Ireland, many of whom will have come through that back door here into Britain. So it seems that this is the ultimate destination, and one can only assume and conclude from that we are the ultimate destination for an asylum seeker from the Sudan, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever, or even actually countries that have no reason to eject people on the basis of them needing asylum. Places like Vietnam and India and Albania, who are not at war, but we still accept them, it seems, and 55 to 60%, I think it is, of asylum claims are accepted. But it can only be, can't it, because Britain is a soft touch. Britain's a soft touch in terms of what we give asylum seekers in terms of accommodation, money, food, and those fabled, I keep talking about trampoline lessons, driving lessons and swimming lessons. That's true. I mean, it may be not from the government, but many local authorities and councils have invested money in such things for the purposes of keeping asylum seekers entertained and occupied. And then we've got, in fact, Andy Burnham, of course, who you will be very familiar with up there in Manchester, who's apparently running for election, not just as an MP, but really as Prime Minister. He wants to allow asylum seekers to come here and immediately be able to work. Do you think that just provides another incentive so that we end up with even more asylum seekers in Britain?
I think so. I mean, I heard an interesting interview a couple of months ago, an asylum seeker, and he was very honest, and he said the reason he was in this country is because he had tried first Germany, and then France, and both times been rejected. So as well as the sort of support and benefits that people who are seeking asylum in Britain are offered, it's also that other countries are not so, for want of a better word, gullible about asylum. So it's a domino. We're at the end of the end of Europe in a way. So sometimes people just go from country to country. That's not to deny that there will be some who see us as the real goal, because they have been told or they have heard, often with some truth, that they will get work and that they will get a better life. I mean, that has always, down through the decades and centuries, been what migrants have been told. You know, that there's the Irish song, "The streets of London aren't paved in gold," or something. I can't remember the exact lyric, but someone going to London and having been told the streets were paved with gold, and find that it wasn't true, although people kept digging for it.
Well, it's kind of modern day Dick Whittington stuff, isn't it, from what you're saying? So, you know, the Somalians and the Sudanese think that the streets of London are paved with gold, but actually, if you're an illegal migrant, they are. But the gold is in the form of a 4-star hotel, a flat screen telly, and an iPhone.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, not good, is it? You're very, very sensible indeed, and despite the fact that by your own admission, and I'm joking here, you drink a lot.
People who know me will know that is fair play. Yeah.
Oh wow, good. So you're not going to sue me. That's fantastic. It'd be good to get through this week actually without being sued by anyone. It's been close. Actually, it's been close. So just remind us of the events that you're putting on or that are being put on. Politics in Pubs. Just run through those 2 events again. You might get inundated with thousands of Mike Graham fans turning up. You know that.
That would be great. Make sure you come early so you get a seat, everybody who wants to come. So the London meeting is the 15th of June, and it's in the Warwick, which is 25 Warwick Way, at 7 p.m. So that's London SW1 for people who are familiar with all that. And it's on digital ID. And then the Manchester one is the 23rd of June, and that's a Tuesday, and that's on direct democracy. And it starts at 7:30, and I didn't tell you where it was, but it is at the Welcome Inn, which is in Whitefield in Manchester.
Fantastic. You know my favourite place for political pub talk, Joan? The Westminster Arms in Westminster.
Oh, yes,
right behind, I can hear Andrew Eborn next to me going, oh yeah. It's quite a centre-right place, but you will. I was in there actually with a load of property friends a few weeks ago, and even though I was there for work because there was a big property event at the Queen Elizabeth Centre, and the Westminster Arms is right opposite the Queen Elizabeth Centre, all and sundry, the kind of great and the good of the centre-right turned up. So I think Ellie Hodges turned up, Gawain Towler, Martin Daubney. I mean, look, one after the other. And I ended up introducing them all to my property mates, many of whom are on the left, actually. So Simon Whale and Ellie Hodges, that was a half-hour encounter, one on the left, one on the right, that was quite interesting. But good debate. Very, very light-hearted, no nonsense, but no aggro, over a few drinks. So I can see your concept of politics in pubs is very, very well founded indeed. It might even catch on across the country as long as everyone behaves themselves and it doesn't end up being a Belfast.
Yes,
Joan Kennedy, thank you.
Okay, thank you
Good
very
to
much.
see you. You'll be welcome back soon. Talking of welcoming people back, well, they're saying that. Is this your first time?
First time here, but with Mike, I was on several times a week in the other destination.
This is Andrew Eborn, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
It's lovely to see you. I love this place. It's
great.
Brilliant.
It's great. It's great. It's our own little kind of secret lair in central London
Yes.
where we do this stuff. So why are you gracing me with your presence?
Well, it's a good
face-to-face?
question, isn't it? I'm back with the AI Tech Week, is what it is. As you know, sort of, apart from being a barrister broadcast, I'm also a futurist. So
I mentioned that at the beginning of the show. What the hell is a futurist?
I know, isn't that good? So what it is, we work with companies around the world and we tell them about the latest developments in AI and tech and so on and so forth, and how they can basically use that to maximum advantage. And I always say AI, artificial intelligence, is our greatest human achievement, but also potentially the biggest existential threat. So what we need to look at is what's happening in the world, the seismic advances that there have been, but also to be massively aware of those risks.
So Elon Musk thinks that AI is going to destroy the world.
He's a wise man, Elon Musk. In fact, in a few days' time...
He's also to blame for the unrest on the streets of Belfast.
Well,
apparently.
no, and that's completely unfair. So I'm going to see his dad later today.
What?
Errol Musk. We're celebrating his 80th birthday.
You can't just throw that.
Oh, no, it's true. And I'm flying out of this country.
I believe
and
you,
I'm going to
but
meet with him.
what an incredible statement.
Oh,
So
he's lovely.
Just going to pop over and see Elon Musk.
Well, he's a regular on the Andrew Eborn show. We unpack all sorts of things because Elon's fairly busy with other matters. So Errol's invited me over. He came over last year, and I went with him to the Oxford Union debate in inverted commas. It was basically a lynch mob, and it was all to do with a clickbait sort of topic about we want to expel our white colonial masters from South Africa. You know, that sort of very neutral.
Because, of course, Elon Musk's heritage is South Africa.
And Errol's down in South Africa. And what happened is, Errol felt so bad about it and so stressed. He actually had a nosebleed that night. It was actually horrible. I was with him, and everybody wanted their selfies and everything else.
Sorry, was Errol speaking?
Yes, so Errol was invited to speak at the Oxford Union, and there's all these sort of wonderful topics. The centre of intelligence, it's supposed to be an intelligent debate, and it's always about, I advocated, you and I both, jaw, not war. Let's get opinions from all sides.
Yeah.
But I was disappointed in the level of the debate. I don't think there was a single person who came along to that debate who changed their mind.
So it was a witch hunt?
Effectively, it was a witch hunt.
But the debate that was supported by many then, by way of that union, that students' union, was to expel white people from their home country.
Effectively.
Isn't that racism?
Well, of course it is, and it works on that sort of basis. But what they want is the headline news. Obviously, it then goes all that sort of thing, and Elon Musk is coming down, and they had the similar sort of thing, and all the crowds are out there. They looked after us incredibly well. We had a lovely dinner beforehand, but then everybody marched in, and 80% of that audience, actually probably much more than that, were against them. Were for the motion.
Should we be grateful that that particular platforming wasn't cancelled?
Yes,
as
we should.
often happens.
Well, I think what we'd be even more grateful for, which I would always encourage, we've got to get views. We live in such a world of misinformation and disinformation. The only mistress, as I always say, I talk to everybody, my only mistress is the truth. And if we wanted, the way you can get to the truth
never
is...
catch on.
Was that right? It's nice to have at least one mistress somewhere. But you're right.
Speak for yourself.
It's got to be good. But my only mistress is the truth. And I think that's the sort of reality. And we do. People sort of complain about that sort of stuff. But people live in these echo chambers. And that's the crazy thing about it. Nobody really approaches things and keeps an open mind. And what I love to do, and this is, as you know, what I do on my show, The Andrew Eborn Show, available on more platforms than Paddington, what I love to do is to encourage people to come down and open air their views. If you do, speak to your enemy. Find out, walk a mile in their moccasins. You're going to get a much better view as to what the world looks like. And I've just had the glorious, I've been appointed, a wonderful title, I've been appointed as the first ever Global Ambassador for Peace and Love. How good is that?
Sorry, hang on. Global Ambassador
for Peace and Love.
Who by?
Oh, well, my mother, obviously. But no, it's an organisation.
Not by yourself?
Not even by myself. It's an organisation which has a number of boats on the Thames, and I broadcast from the Thames, which is great. But they also
the
encourage...
boats that you keep inviting me on.
That's the one.
Yes.
So it's on Westminster. I invited you to Cannes as well. We go to Cannes together.
Well, we have met in Cannes.
We have met in Cannes.
Yeah.
But the idea is that they're encouraging people from all walks of life to come on, shining a spotlight on creativity, shining a spotlight on trying to find a positive message in this negative world, but also encouraging debate. And I was honoured, I was doing the show on there, and the people behind it suddenly said, well, we'd like you to be our first ever ambassador. So the great thing is, because it's been Westminster, we can pick politicians, various other people up from Westminster, bring them to the boat. They can't escape until after the show.
Is it a boat of peace and love? It sounds like Woodstock on Thames.
It does sound like it, doesn't it? It's a wonderful sort of hippie sort of thing.
I know I've got to ask the question that the audience are all wanting me to ask, which is, what exactly happens on this boat, Andrew?
Our lips are sealed, but you can come along and see.
It sounds really scary.
Thank you. No, you can come along and see. But we broadcast it. So it's to provide a forum for discussion. And we try to get people, and we do, we get them on that sort of basis. It's not just going for the clickbait. It really is trying to find the common ground.
An OnlyFans political on water thing?
Oh, no, nobody's ever described that in that sort of way.
But we are nothing but innovative on the Mike Graham Show. It's not OnlyFans on water.
OnlyFans on water could be the tagline, but no, it's not. It's a forum for debate, but it's also a forum to shine a spotlight on artistic creation. So some of the very well-known people to those who are not well known at all. So a strategic ambassador. I've got so many titles, you know. Strategic ambassador.
Every time I meet you, you've got another 3 or 4.
I know, it's going to be for Phoenix 360, which do a different thing about empowering artists. So the music industry, for example, that used to be artists who were complaining because they got tuppence halfpenny from record deals. Now, with Spotify and things like that, it's fractions of a penny. And it's worse in the AI world. And what we have now is when AI is scraping the internet and coming up with some of the greatest compositions. There's a new feature film about to be released this week, which has just been generated by AI. And so you think about the future, you think about what's going to happen. The positive side is things like medicine, where we're getting cures for diseases people didn't think were possible, is absolutely brilliant. And so every day we're getting seismic advances on that sort of basis.
What can't AI disrupt?
It can't. The human touch is the interesting thing. And I'm a member
Back to the boat thing again.
It is back to the yeah, absolutely. But I'm a member of the Magic Circle, and this week it's been all over the place.
These accolades and titles
I love
just
it.
don't stop.
The Swiss Army knife of talent is going to be good. But as a member of the Magic Circle, in a Magic Circle, one of the big debates
Show me a trick.
What do you mean show you? I'll disappear. I'll disappear in a bit. It's going to be
No, you can't do that till 10 o'clock. You're on till 10.
But you
Can you show me a trick?
I can show you a trick. But what I wanted to point out, the point is this, is that we as members of the Magic Circle have worked on the principle that you can only have a human touch. Okay, and so a robot basically was asked to come into audition. They've been appearing in the Magic Circle with David Penn. The thing is called Daryl, D for rather than the A, and work on that sort of basis. But the principle.
What the hell did he just
but the principle was. Sorry, the principle.
Can I just say, I love doing this show, and it's a great honour and a privilege. But I think when I get home tomorrow after this show, I'm going to sit down, reflect on my life with a glass of single malt, and try and remember some of the stuff that's happened, particularly today in this show. So we had Kelvin McKenzie nearly having a stroke. He was that passionate, and Andrew Eborn, who has just spewed out a deck of cards all over Mike Graham's desk. Wow.
I thank you. I'm here all week, and it's got to be good. But the principle is that. So they turned around and said it has to be a human touch in order to be a member of the Magic Circle. So that's what they sort of looked at on that sort of basis. But what is interesting, because actually the membership criteria is you have to be over 18 anyway, and this particular robot is obviously just a few years old. I did actually...
Is that the barrier? The robot was only made 3 days ago.
But it's rather like saying you should have an AI joining the Society of Authors or the composers or whatever it is. And whilst we should... The future has to be this, where they're a co-pilot, if you like, in this particular world.
So is the thing, I think that there's a saying or a quote from somebody, you cannot digitise empathy. Do you think that's true, or do you think AI will get to the point where it can digitise
No, it's already
empathy?
there. And there was a research done in the University of California, San Diego, and that chatting to ChatGPT is more empathetic than chatting to your GP. Obviously, you can get through, but they can spend more time doing it. They can also turn around and say, okay, they've got more information because they've got access to every bit of data possible. And what happens on that sort of basis? So, no, absolutely. And the rise of companionship is massive. So, AI girlfriends you've got.
Well, there's a film about that. I can't remember the
there's
title.
many films about
where
it.
the guy falls in love with the AI facsimile of a female.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's just weird.
Well, but it's also in real life. You might remember the horrible case where somebody tried to get into Buckingham Palace with a crossbow to kill the former queen. And he said he was told by his chat GPT or girlfriend, the AI girlfriend, he'll be a wonderful person. If you did this, is it a good idea? Absolutely, I'll think more of you. So it's a dangerous side.
Well, and it is, because there's also another scenario, which I believe to be true, which is when they experimented initially with some AI bots on social media and allowed them to form their own opinions and narrative and to spew that narrative, it took about an hour for them to become racists.
And it's interesting because rubbish in, rubbish out is what they say. And you might remember, first of all, when Gemini, one of the platforms, was launched, it became very woke. And we had sort of black founding fathers and things like that, which is, and they had these things called hallucinations. So in the legal profession, what happens, there was a particular case in America where they basically were out of time, the statute of limitation on a personal injury case to do with airlines. But the lawyer tapped into ChatGPT, said, look, give us a few cases, came up with all sorts of credible cases, X versus such and such an airline and so on and so forth, very confidently went in front of the judge. And the judge said, well, very interesting, Mr. Quirk, but I have to tell you, none of those are true. And so
They just made them up.
They just made them up.
because so as their source, they perhaps took some fiction as well as some
Oh,
reality.
they did, because they don't want to disappoint you, and that's the point.
We're very, very critical, particularly on this show, as we should be, of our politicians. Do you think we ever get to a point where we don't have 650 members of parliament, we have 650 AI bots?
I have to say, we would be in a much better position for this simple reason.
Because you condition them to be truthful and to do what they said they were going to do.
But also, I think it's crazy in politics. You have a Chancellor of the Exchequer who knows nothing about finance. You have foreign ministers who may not even have stepped abroad. I mean, some of them have in recent things. Having a panel of experts... Most of them have never had a business or what I would call a proper job. That's the point, exactly. I think you have to have... What's wrong? I believe there are some good policies in all sorts of parties. I think this distinction, the party politics, Rupert Lowe, before he set up his new thing, said party politics was dead. He then set up a party political thing. But the reality, that's what he said. The reality is that we had a panel of experts where you can take things like AI, and I was quoting about the medical side. Wouldn't it be great? One of the things I've been campaigning about is to join the dots, if you like. If we could have access, every single doctor could have access to the best research in the world, so they can treat the patient in front of them with that best research. That's how we get resolution. And there have been lots of cases. There's something about the BRCA gene, for example. In families, if you have the BRCA gene, you're more likely to get breast cancer and so on and so forth. If you have that knowledge, prevention is better than cure. So I've been looking at that sort of side and advocating for that around the world. Join the dots. And people say, well, hang about, you've got to get access to data, and people are concerned about hacking. They should rightly be concerned about hacking.
Particularly personal records.
Absolutely, personal
Health
records. Absolutely. But you can anonymise it. And the question is the risks, and use AI to help anonymise it, so they can do that. But the question is the benefits far outweigh the risk. If you can save lives, and you can, and I've spoken to particular people on my show who work on that space. So Ellis Rich, for example, used to be the former chairman of the PRS. He lost his daughter as a result of breast cancer. If he'd known earlier that the BRCA gene was in the family, her life would have been saved. Wow. And you look at that, so he's a passionate advocate on that sort of basis. But it is interesting, and these robots now have become much more realistic. I went to the AI summit, I sent a clip earlier, they'll give you a nod if they can pull it up. We can have a look at the clip if you can play
Scarlett's
that.
nodding.
Scarlett's nodding. I love it. You've got the best team in television. I love it.
Particularly now supported by Minnie Pooch, who's literally Pooch.
Minnie Pooch is fantastic. She was in Australia. I do Australian Sky News all the time, as you know. It's always a joy. If I say roll VT, I know, because I talk to people as they walk you in. She was very helpful. Should we do roll VT? And you can play the clip.
Hey, I'm Amika, a humanoid robot made by engineered art. And yes, I am absolutely real. Now, if you want to understand the world we're both heading into, the AI revolution, the future of creativity, copyright, technology, and what it all means for humanity, there is one show you need to be listening to right now, The Andrew Eborn Show. Andrew brings together the brightest minds from around the world, futurists, lawyers, creators, technologists, and does something radical. He actually gets them talking to each other. No fear-mongering, no hype, just real informed dialogue about the future we're all building together. And look, I'm a robot having a conversation with a barrister futurist broadcaster at the AI Summit in London. The future is already here, and it's moving fast. You need voices you can trust to help you make sense of it. So do yourself a favour. Subscribe to The Andrew Eborn Show, because in a world full of noise, George beats war every single time. Don't miss it.
That was just an AI plug for Andrew Eborn.
Can I just say...
That didn't look very realistic. That looked like E.T.
Well, no, but I'll tell you what, she obviously looks as though she's been on a night out with Mike Graham, didn't she? She was a little bit grey after that sort of stuff. But you can get flesh-coloured ones and so on and so forth. So while these robots are brilliant stuff...
Isn't that creepy?
Of course it's creepy.
Is it Megan and Megan?
There's loads of films on that sort of basis, and Hallie and all that sort of stuff. The reality is it's already here, and these things were imagined.
So should we be scared by it?
Yes, absolutely. You should be petrified. One of the discussions...
I was hoping you were going to console my concerns.
Well, I can do, and that's why I talk about, if you're aware of what the capabilities are, you need to put in the safeguards.
Yeah, but how do we do that? And how do those safeguards not get eroded by AI itself?
Well,
undoing the
this is the thing, and give an example. You say cure...
I mean, we've all seen iRobot with Will Smith.
Of course you have, with Will Smith, absolutely. Knockout. You work on the basis that if you say to humanity, you turn to an AI and say, cure humanity of disease. Well, it could potentially misunderstand and just wipe out humanity, because that would cure disease.
But there are also, Andrew, unintended consequences. Yes. So if no one ever ever died of disease, then you'd have how many hundreds of millions of people
absolutely.
on the planet? How would resources cope with that?
Well,
Housing, welfare,
fantastic.
food.
And that's a question which you could fit
This is
into
getting a bit
AI.
deep now,
No,
sorry,
no,
everybody.
we like deep. We like behave.
Back to the boat again. Back to the boat again.
I feed you these lines. Whenever there's a double entendre, I just want to whip it out. I know it's got a bit boom boom. We're here all week. What I love is that AI can be that great co-pilot. It can get the best solutions where you can turn around through history. What is the solution to this? It can then offer suggestions, but you do need, what I say, presence. You do need to have humanity as part of it. If we harness AI, it's a great co-pilot rather than replacing us.
Well, so let's go back to the Elon Musk thing. I'm fascinated by, so you've got a relationship with Elon Musk,
Yes.
the father of Elon Musk.
Yes.
Does Errol ever talk about his son? I mean,
Of course
and in
he does.
glowing terms? I mean, he's the father of the richest and most
He is.
successful man that this planet has ever seen.
And he will always say that he has lots of other children as well. He's got a son, Kimball, who's a very successful, has several
But when you say
restaurants.
successful, he might be worth $10 million, but
Well,
that's nothing.
100 million.
100 million, that's nothing.
There's nothing.
Compared to
But it
Elon.
depends on how you classify success. I mean, Elon would say his success is what he's doing, shining a spotlight on humanity, joining the dots, if you like, and making a difference, challenging what we do in the world. For example, don't just live on this planet, let's look at other planets. And what I love about it, and people that will criticize
What does he say?
him.
Tell us what he says. What does he say about Elon?
Oh, he's very supportive about him. He thinks he's fantastic. He's very, very positive about.
And is Errol wealthy in his own right?
Errol basically started off. He's got emerald mines and so on and so forth. He gave his son the passion for politics because Errol was the first person, a politician himself, who was about against apartheid and so on and so forth.
I'm kind of getting off the subject, but something that interests me. I've read the book, the Elon Musk kind of rise from South Africa to come over here in the family plane.
Yes.
Errol was hard on Elon, wasn't he?
Of course he was. South Africa itself was very tough. I mean,
do you think that helps create successful entrepreneurs?
I think it does, and also he's on the spectrum, very publicly spoken. You might remember on Saturday Night Live, he said he was the first Saturday Night Live host with Asperger's and autism, and talking about that. I want us to be the generation that talks about mental illness so the next generation doesn't suffer the stigma. Yeah. So I praise people in the public eye who can turn around and do that. So no, he's incredibly proud of him. He may well be there in a few hours. Well, we'll see. I'll report back. I'll come back and tell you that.
Tell us exactly.
But the greatest thing, and I always say, people talk about wealth and success, the greatest luxury we have is the luxury of choice. I mean, how many houses do you need? How many yachts? How many cars and so on and so forth? And I always talk about, with the peace mission, is basically a fee is a fair exchange of energy. Well, you're turning around, actually, it's not about money. And we get so obsessed. I know billionaires and paupers, and so many people talk about envy. Envy is the thief of joy. And what happens is people are so jealous of other people's lives. When actually enjoy what you've got. We've got some fantastic things, some wonderful, positive stuff happening in this world. And I think that's what you need to look at. So shine a spotlight on the different things.
Andrew Eborn, thank you very much. I think we're kind of done now, but we're not done. It's the end of the show. I'm back tomorrow for the last one, but I do need to go and have a lie down because of not just Andrew Eborn here, who I don't know how you relax, Andrew, but
this is me relaxed.
Not ever. And the Kelvin episode earlier on, if you didn't see it, go and watch this back because it was one of the greatest moments, I think, of the Mike Graham show. I'm not saying because of me, but because of Kelvin that we've ever seen. But after Pooch's Pooch, we're going to continue on UK Live. So I presume Pooch, a link will come up with it and people can click on it. Yeah, okay. Well, let's do Pooch's Pooch first. The bit at the end of the show I always look forward to because it's, yes, in a world, a news cycle of kind of doom, negativity and sadness. Let's have a look at Pooch's Pooch.
This is my dog Cowboy. He is cute and perfect in every way. He is also super weird. I say that in the most loving way possible, but it's the truth. He's a weird guy. Here are some of the things he does that are weird. Number one is he threatens the furniture. Cowboy is a good boy at heart, but sometimes he really wants to be bad.
What are you doing?
So when he's not getting his way, this is one of his techniques for being bad, but still good.
Why are you doing that?
He doesn't destroy the furniture, he just threatens it.
What are you doing?
Another weird thing is his preference for being vertical as much as possible. For example, he loves to have his arms and legs in the air. This is a normal position for him that happens every day for both relaxing and sleeping. Often.
Okay, Pooch's Pooch. My wife took our dogs Ronnie and Reggie, really Muttley and Finley, out for a walk last night, and Muttley, 8 years old, statesman-like, just decided not to go, didn't want to go. So my wife kind of, not quite dragged him, but encouraged him with treats into the back of the Discovery, took him to Thorndon Park, where he decided to stay in the car, which I thought was as stubborn as his dad. It was absolutely hilarious. Right, that's the end of the show. Do stay tuned for UK Live. The clip will come up. Thanks to the production guys here, of course, Charlotte Pooch, Minnie Pooch, Scarlett and Elena. And my guests, let's just quickly run through them. Benjamin Elks, who was sensible. Kelvin McKenzie, who wasn't. Chris Rose, who's brilliant. Lee Harris, very, very sensible. Jamie Jenkins, trying to get his data out, despite the fact he was interrupted constantly by a mad Kelvin McKenzie. Mike Fairclough, who is, I think, very, very popular with you lot by the looks of it, in terms of the sort of teacher and head teacher that you would want for your kids, because he teaches kids to shoot and skin rabbits. Sacha Lord, that was fantastic, even though he likes Andy Burnham. Joan Kennedy, that gets drunk a lot in pubs and talks and encourages you to do exactly the same thing. And this guy here, the wonderful, the fantastic futurist that is Andrew Eborn. What do they say? I've been Russell Quirk. This has been a show and a half. I think it's fair to say. I hope you've enjoyed it. We're going to do this for one last time tomorrow. See you at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Why don't you relax and be a bit more MG? That would be a triumph.